Hello and welcome to an awful lot of...
Not today, Jack. It's my time to shine.
Hello?
Oh, hey, Robin. Lovely to see you.
What? What's happening?
Oh, Jack didn't tell you.
No?
Simple answer. It's the 1st of June, 2024.
Which means...
Stars Pride Month special takeover!
Woo!
Sorry, published author Robin Foale. I have got plenty of guest hosts with me for this one. But on that note, hello and welcome to an awful lot of running, a Doctor Who podcast. Cue titles. We've done the fancy-a-dancy intro. Here are the guests. We'll start with the obvious. The straight token for the one here, or supposedly straight until James finishes with him.
I'm
George
undecided.
Gydra!
Hi. I'm technically undecided, but I guess, or I don't know. But yeah, I'm the we'll say I'm the token straight for now.
And also joining us, James York.
Hello, my lovelies.
Laughing.
Yeah, baby.
And it's not just two guests, it's a whole plethora. We've got Iris Prindle,
Woo! Pookie.
Peter C. Scott.
Yo.
The C is important. And I guess Law's here too.
Wow!
It's me. Hi.
Law you will recognize by the time this episode's come out from the Boom podcast as the landmine.
As the landmine, so you should know me by now.
My
Yeah, by
favorite
that time
Time
we-
Lord. My favorite Time Lord. The landmine.
The landmine.
Hang on,
That's
wait. Law, you're playing the Mind Turtle?
I am playing the mine. Oh, I should have done the mine. Oh, I should have done the mine turtle. I didn't
Re-record.
think of that. I just
It's
saw
too
like
late.
the
This
long
is
like
after.
I saw the long like the Villain God Corporation
Doctor
line,
Who
and I was like, I
podcast,
need
just
to
go
give
back
my
in time.
best like aperture science enrichment center. Like I needed to. I just immediately went for that, but the mine turtle. Oh, I should have thought about that.
That's all right. I'll probably bring you back on like every podcast. Like, yeah.
She's got
You're
her,
helpful for skits now.
she's got her claws into your law.
Oh, there.
So let's now introductions are pretty much done. You will all get a chance to plug socials and stuff later. We'll move on to the topic that we're all here for: gays.
Gay is in. Gay is
There we
now.
I beg
I was
your
waiting for
pardon?
someone.
I am a good, wholesome, straight Christian boy.
I just want to point out, I'm the ordained minister here. I am ordained.
That is true.
And,
That is
I'm
true.
fine with this. So, I wanna
Does,
make-
does that mean calling George Daddy is actually accurate?
technically it'd be father. But then it has been pointed out to me, forgive me, father, for I've sinned. Isn't that different from, oh, punish me, daddy, for I've been a bad little whatever?
Anyway,
This is a great start. Yeah,
Thanks.
so gays in Doctor Who. That's our main topic. We will be discussing a little bit of just general LGBT later because we might as well all use our platforms to help educate and stuff later. But first,
Wait.
Doctor Who. Iris, what do you want?
This was supposed to be about Doctor Who. I've been studying about Veggie Tales the entire time.
Don't worry, there's a section for that.
It better be.
They're probably connected. Let's be real here.
Yeah, everything is Doctor Who. Anyway,
Unfortunately.
so we'll start with the questions that I've written up and George has helped me with because George is my question man. We'll start with the first one. What does LGBTQA rep in Doctor Who mean to you?
I think LGBTQI plus rep in Doctor Who is really crucial. And I think it has, as much as it may have not been deliberately there, I think there's been lots of subtext even from sort of the beginning of the 1960s. And I think as queer people, you know, it's a place. It can be a safe place, and it can be, especially for me, when I didn't have a lot of friends, and definitely it was very some isolating time. And then I would go to Doctor Who, and I would feel like, wow, I found my family. And I think a lot of young queer people have kind of that sort of feel. I feel maybe.
I think I'm I gotta say this as someone who obviously will not have the same experience as everyone else here. So I'm not gonna sit here and do the typical, oh, I understand. I don't. I don't. I can empathize as much as, and I want to understand more, but I'm not going to say I have the same experiences as everyone. But what I have found is what James has said is that it really brings in, despite what you see online, it really does bring in, this kind of openness, like this community where you feel like you can be open, you can be, you know, you can very freely and confidently say I identify, as this sexuality, or I identify as this gender, and people will accept you and love you. And like I said at the start, I say I'm straight. Realistically, I don't know what I am, but but the thing is about Doctor Who is that because of how open it is and how very much as much as when it does a gay rights thing, it does it quite well. It does, make it clear. No, but a lot of time it normalizes it so much that I can generally sit here and say, you know what, I'm not particularly sure what my sexuality is, but I'm okay with not knowing. I don't feel I have to label it, and I'm happy with that. And it's due to the Rep and Doctor Who normalizing, all of that. That really helps, I think.
Absolutely. I think with representation of the LGBTQ in Doctor Who, again, like I said, I think definitely when it comes to representation, it's even more stronger as society kind of grows accustomed to it, I would say. Or, when you have someone like Russell T Davis, who his previous work was Queer as Folk, it was like the first season, even probably nowadays it seems normal, like a normal queer, back then it was breaking boundaries. And even just, yeah, some of it's a little bit dated and stuff like that, but that's the evolution of the show. We look how far we've come as a community, as well with Doctor Who. We've had gay, lesbian, bisexual characters, we've had trans characters. Is it presented in a positive light? Mostly, but at least Doctor Who gives it a go. Whereas a lot of big sci-fi shows even wouldn't touch it. They even wouldn't touch it, I would say.
Or if they do, it's very much tick a box.
Yes, it's a tick a box moment. Whereas Doctor Who, I don't think really does that. I think there's a somewhat naturalness to it.
Yeah.
With
Um,
sci-fi shows specifically, I think it is fairly important and natural to show LGBTQ rep, because like the universe is infinite. No way is every single thing going to stay in the same aim. Oh, you have to be of the opposites. You have to be with people of the opposite sex. You have to identify as a thing that you were born with. Uh so like a lot of the representation in Doctor Who feels natural, just because no way is the universe this big, and I'm losing my train of thought.
The universe isn't that it can't be so big and straight.
Yeah.
and you can't explore all these different time periods and expect everything to be stagnant.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
exactly. You got to get out there, and you got to, you got to dance, as a certain episode puts it. Like it's inevitable. It's given an infinite universe, given a monkey on a typewriter for an infinite amount of time, it's like it's bound to happen. And I think a show all about kind of exploration of, I don't know, the infinite, I think it's really nice to, I don't know, also have exploration of uh I don't know, identity and the infiniteness of identity. I think it's really nice. And I think it's quite important. I think it's quite good that I don't know, like a because the UK, I think specifically, I don't know, being Doctor Who's kind of mostly at its biggest in the UK. I think
Yeah.
who knows. It's mostly kind of a British thing, and Britain isn't exactly always the most progressive when it comes to these kinds of things. It falls a little behind, I think. I'll say it lightly. So I think it's very important to have a like a prime time like family show with such a like a long history and such like a cultural impact of you can't see a police box without thinking it's a TARDIS. You can't look at a Pepper Pot or a Salt Shaker without going it's a bit Dalek or things like that. Like having something so kind of prominent, be able to kind of not only kind of represent for us, the groups being represented, but also just normalize it for um other people, cis people and people who don't exactly fall into it, but just become normalized to it. I do think a lot about kind of, I don't know, how nice it must have been for, in 2005 in the UK, and there's a very openly, queer character running around with the Doctor and Rose,
Yeah.
you know, during evening time, during when you have your dinner, the TV
Yeah.
you watch during your dinner, and he was on there, and it's really nice to have that. I don't know, not just from a in-universe story perspective. It's wonderful to have it, this diverse range of characters, but also just as its slot as a TV show.
And it feels normal.
Feels
Science.
completely normal.
What was it? Science fiction, fantasy, and horror as well. Busy genre fiction. There's always been large queer fan bases for them. I think often because these shows, at least even now, when they are probably at their most mainstream, are still not really thought of as that mainstream. They're out there, you're a Trekkie, whatever. But it's like a lot of the fan bases of these things, a lot of the people who kept them alive are queer. I mean, look at just how many, look at say the Virgin New Adventures, the novels after Doctor Who was cancelled. And those will be the first time a lot of Doctor Who was written by people who grew up watching Doctor Who, and a lot of those authors and the ones who continued into the new show were queer. Which kind of shows you with, again, and I'm sure it's probably very similar if you looked at like Star Trek novels and whatnot, but there's always been large queer fan bases for these things, and they definitely deserve to get to see themselves represented or get to be in a position to be the people to add those queer elements. I'm fairly certain the first ever time companion in Doctor Who, which is in one of the novels, was confirmed to be queer, was in the novel Russell T Davies wrote. However many, actually quite a few years, over about 10 years before he brought the show back.
I also know one of the first, in terms of a visual format, one of the first gay kisses in Doctor Who was via the Eighth Doctor comics with Izzy.
Yes.
I remember reading a thing about the comics, and apparently they got a few complaints, but they just didn't care. And I was like, yes, that's the way to be.
If I remember right, the bloke who wrote the comic or was producing them at the time said something. He would have been upset if they hadn't gotten at least one angry letter. And it was something like some American bloke saying he cancelled his subscription.
Oh, no. It's just that Willy Wonka meme. No, stop, come back.
Yeah, that is exactly what it was.
Okay, we kind of covered the next question, but for the sake of reading it out, I will. Why does it matter that we have this rep in Doctor Who?
It normalizes it, because I think it's a case of we go back years ago, like to the 60s and stuff, and you wouldn't see a lot of queer representation, or very, very rarely, or a lot of time if it was played for a laugh. But gradually, it started being used more, and I think it's important to normalize it. And what I like about Doctor Who is, especially now, because I know I mean, a lot of people say Doctor Who's gone woke. Now, Doctor Who's always been woke. If you really want to go for that, it always has been. It's
Yeah.
just the sensibilities changed with the time.
I mean, this show's
yeah.
like it started with a Jewish woman and a gay person of color.
Yeah.
Exactly, and it's the whole thing of a lot of the time the show does portray it as if a character's gay, it's not particularly made a big deal of. Like, don't get me wrong, there are moments where if it's showing someone coming up, someone who is part of the LGBT community coming up against adversity, they will play that how it needs to be as a triumphant moment, which yes, it should be, but a lot of the time it is, at least from what I've noticed, a lot of time it's just normalized, just saying, yeah, oh hi, Doctor, nice to meet you. My name's Greg. This is my boyfriend Keith or whatever, and it's just normal. It's not like you're gay. Wow,
Yeah.
look at this, Ruby. Look at these
Yeah.
gay people. It's not done like that.
It comes in natural conversation, and that is what I feel like it should be taught. It should be, oh, this is my boyfriend, and it shouldn't be like, this is my boyfriend, or I'm thinking of transitioning, or like, these are my pronouns. Like, it should just be a natural conversation, and it should be a okay, but we've got these horrible Daleks that are gonna destroy us. Oh my goodness! But like, and it's great because it does matter. And again, I feel like with programs like Doctor Who, where it has a huge queer fan base, and even itself having queer writers write it, and especially even in the classic series, there's a lot of queer context. I mean, you've got to look at Survival, for God's sake,
Yeah.
the last story, or you got to look at even sort of the relationship between Tegan and Nyssa, or you can even would say, even look at the Doctor as a character. We've seen that character from a male perspective, and now a female perspective, and now we're a person of color who is also, I believe, is queer, is queer, and it's about, it does matter, because back when we were growing up, there was hardly any of it. Or when it was portrayed, when queer media was portrayed, it was either it ended in tragedy, or there was so much heartache, and it's like it became less appealing. But Doctor Who kind of sort of said there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and to coin and to again to bring a phrase that was when I was coming to terms with my sexuality, it gets better, and I believe Doctor Who does that. I think it does get better. You can travel with me, just because you're this, just because you're that. As long as you're a good person, you can come with me into the TARDIS, and we can go through time and space. As long as you're a good person, doesn't matter who you are, what you are.
Mm-hmm.
Don't
Yeah,
think
no,
I
that
don't
really
think
is
I
quite
could have
nice.
said that better myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All else, I just want to say something quickly. I've said this to a few people here before. I found out recently that a very old friend of mine, a very close, or someone who I viewed as quite close to me, was spreading on their social media a lot of very much non-binary stuff shouldn't be taught in school. It's a falsehood. My favorite thing was the line was, "It's just a made-up word." I'm like, every word is made up, but so and. My friend I know my friend has children, and I kind of couldn't help but think, damn. And I thought, well, no, I'm glad there's a show like that's Doctor Who that they might be exposed to. They might not ever watch it, I don't know, but it's nice to know that they might get their message and they'll be able to question saying, actually, no, why is it such a bad thing?
Yeah.
If someone like I if someone like uses different pronouns, or if like a man likes another man, or vice versa, I think it's also important for people who are in households who may not be so willing to, you know, express it or accept these, accept things like this. To have a mainstream show like Doctor Who, that's very proudly saying, basically, just don't be a dick. That's all you don't need to be. I don't care who you are, or like what you are, what sexuality you are, what gender. Just don't be a dick, and that's all that matters. And I think that's really important.
Mm-hmm. No, I do agree, and I think it's really quite nice that it's really nice having characters who, I don't know, like you say, are just kind of normalized, just like a part of the cast of the week for the Base Under Siege or something. Just be queer. I always really like that. But what I do enjoy about Doctor Who and its infinite kind of combinations and moving pieces and how it can kind of reconfigure and be whatever story ever. The box can go anywhere and it can really do whatever. I really do appreciate when we do get stories about I don't know, queer people and the focus and all that kinds of stuff. I loved Rose in the Star Beast and all of the good and bad that came with it, and just I don't know, just letting people know about this. I've known people who have very much it was really quite nice having watching Star Beast and watching Sylvia and Donna talk about Rose's, like pronouns and the way Sylvia treats her and all that kinds of stuff. I've had a conversation a lot like that with people before who have been very like, oh, I don't know how to, treat them. I don't know what to say, and it's just very nice to have. I don't know, even in a show which is I don't know often about I don't know evil doppelgangers at the edge of the universe or stepping on landmines, that they have bits where they're just able to kind of educate a bit and just go, hey, this is you might hear the word, like transgender, but like what is a character? Who is what is a transgender? Like what is this actually like? And even the hard bits, like the dead naming scene.
And
It's all I
Hmm.
really appreciate stuff
Yeah.
like that.
and it gives the conversation, and I think up to the parents then to kind of have that conversation however they see fit. I mean, I know that and hopefully it will be a positive way. Hopefully it would be the case of that, if the doctor, who is this heroic figure, is okay with it, then like come on, like I think we have the doctor is ultimately a good person and as a good judge of character, and but there's such a human quality to them, and is able to kind of go, these are my people, these are the people that I love and cherish, and I will protect all of them. So and I think that positive message of like we like love all, no matter who you are, what you are, that's the key message, when going into our heads when we were young, that helped us kind of go through our own personal experiences.
Which is a somewhat perfect segue to because we've covered the next one as well. Because when writing these, I think I've just kind of taken the same question and reworded it. So we'll go to the next one. Did you discover who you were through Doctor Who? Which I'm going to take the first answer on this because it partially, yes. Doctor Who was kind of like how I first kind of learned about LGBT stuff and looked more into it, and it helped me find my sexuality. It didn't help me find my gender for a while. I think Jodie definitely did help when that eventually came around. But ultimately the award for you've got something up with your gender went to Elsa from Frozen. The irony that I played the Frozen Doctor. But
Paying it
yeah,
back.
yeah. Um, but yeah, no, I think Doctor Who as a whole show has definitely helped myself, and I can't speak for everyone else, but I know that at least several other people have said, yeah, no, Doctor Who helped me figure this out or this out. And I suppose that's kind of like the beauty of the show, that that has themes of like self-identity and change and learning. And yeah, no. So did any of you guys discover anything about yourselves with Doctor Who?
No.
Unfortunately, not for me.
Well, that was quick.
Well, in a weird way, yes. I think for me, it was. I would have to say it's more the case of, oh, I kind of have a crush on David Tennant and then Matt Smith, but then also it was this loving this camp, sometimes the campness,
Hmm.
loving the idea of that, to be flamboyant, and there's something, there was something like it was kind of almost like going into Wonderland. And myself and my best friend for 20 years, his name is Jack Wilkin, hi, and he and myself, we're both queer men, or queer people, and we loved. He introduced me to Doctor Who, and it was a safe place. We were able to kind of, in a sense, kind of come out to each other using Doctor Who, and I think it can be a safe place. It can be, and it should be a safe place. Absolutely.
I I gotta be honest, it helped educate me because I got into Doctor Who. I got into it late. I got into it with the episode Midnight. That was the first episode I watched, and I was just starting secondary school. I was just going into year 7, and here's the thing: people know what year 7s are like, but
Yeah.
the area, like Star knows a bit about the area that I'm from. You can imagine what it was like. Like, me and my best mate, it was that typical thing of we got bullied or being called gay all the time. We weren't doing anything. Literally, we just sat next to each other talking or writing, like, in a lesson. And yet it's just like, oh, you guys are gay because you hang out. And like, well, you guys are hanging out. You're playing football, getting all sweaty together. But okay, I'm not saying anything. But when you're a kid, it's getting drummed into you of that's an insult. That's an insult. And look, I'm gonna like when I was a year 7, yeah, I might throw that back when I was a year 7. I'm not gonna pretend I didn't because I was trying to like I thought so I have to defend myself against these people calling me this. And the thing is, I kept thinking to myself as a kid, I knew this was wrong though because I have gay relatives, I have gay friends even then, and I started to think, no, that isn't, but that isn't right. Then I started getting more into Doctor Who, and there's this character who's just unapologetically themselves, and I started to realize, I thought, why do I care? I thought, why do I care if they call me gay? Because even if I am, there's nothing wrong with that. If I'm not, there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, the amount of shit that people in the LGBT community have to go through. If you're calling me, like, if you're saying that I'm part of that, then that's a compliment because my God, the amount of stuff that they've gone through is astounding. And it's why when I say to people, I don't particularly, I'm not 100% sure what my sexuality is. Doctor Who taught me to be like, hey, it's okay. And it's okay to just be you. And it encouraged me, to ask questions, to learn more. And now and here's the thing: I have met people who were, in year 7, and I've seen them now, and they've not changed one bit from what they are, and because they didn't have a positive influence. And I sometimes think, I never think I'd be that bad, but it's very nice to know that I had Doctor Who to kind of make sure I never go into that, because I like to think no matter what, I'm a pretty decent ally. At the very least, I like to think I'm a pretty decent ally, and I do have to thank Doctor Who for that, because it showed me never let people tell you can't be you. Be open and be who you are, and I think that really helped.
I think you're pretty neat as well, George.
I will take that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I
Now I just want the Simpsons meme of I just think they're neat, but instead of a potato, it's
They're
gone.
neat.
It's just Law holding me. I'm just there like, hello. Like in the meep.
Hello.
The meme later.
Okay, but I'll be in the meep pose. Just
Oh. Oh.
But
I
yeah,
actually
no.
yeah. Oh, sorry. I mean, fire away.
I'll quickly say this, but I will quickly say, George, like, I just you being an ally is great because I've seen the amount of posts you put up on Twitter and how fucking outraged you have been by how the UK government is fucking trans people right now.
evening, Prime Minister.
Yeah.
Evening.
It's
Rishi, we
really-
know you listen.
No, it means a lot seeing people like yourself and like many others that are just going out and being like, "What the fuck are you doing? This is horrific." It does mean a lot. So yeah, no, you, in the words of Law, are pretty neat.
I'm putting that on my CV. I'm putting that on my CV later. Pretty neat.
And a shirt, honestly.
If Star makes the meme, I will get it printed onto a shirt. I'm just saying.
Wonderful. Oh, yeah. I don't really know if Doctor Who really. I definitely do think it helped. Being around it growing up definitely helped me. I think having a show which had kind of queer characters and very much normalized the kind of ladies and gentlemen and variations thereupon and things like that, which were like, I look back at that in 2005 and I'm like, shockingly ahead of the times. I love it. And I definitely think it helped having that around. And I definitely do think growing up, it was never really something I took too much kind of thought into or anything like that. It was definitely kind of like George said, was kind of around school. I think I went into I left
Yeah.
middle school. I went into whatever comes afterwards. I always forget the name. It's always annoying because it's like primary, middle, and it's something else. And I'm like, stop changing the names around. I don't get it. But it was kind of after I left that, and I think it was around lockdown. It was really where I was kind of able, I was just kind of stuck in a room, and I was just like, okay, time to develop some like critical thinking skills for the first time in my life, and getting to kind of comb through this thing I'd kind of been so attached to, and kind of realize like, oh, this is asexuality is a thing, and that's a thing the Doctor is, and kind of learning about that was really interesting. I remember I was at college and I was hanging out with a friend of mine, and I was talking about asexuality, and my friend just gave me this bewildered look. And after a while, I was like, "You know what I'm talking about, right?" And he was like, "No, what is asexuality?" And I was like, "Oh, wow, okay." Like it took me back a second because I was like, "I guess you just wouldn't know about that if you hadn't learned about it, had you?" But I'd been exposed to something which had that in it, and I was able to kind of look at it. It made me kind of look at the Doctor's character, across the years, or very differently, because I was like, yeah, no, they are this, and that's so interesting. And I kept going on, and I remember having late night calls during lockdown. I was just playing loads of Minecraft, and I was just rambling out loud about all these kinds of things I'd realized, and the how, I don't know, Time Lords and the Doctor kind of relate to gender and things like that, and looking at, especially again, I think we brought up the Virgin New Adventures and that kind of the wilderness years, and all the queer fans growing up and inheriting the show in such a beautiful way, and kind of getting portrayals of the then current Eighth Doctor as being all like, "Oh, I've never been quite a man," and things like that, and it made me kind of look at the Doctor through a new light, and I appreciated that, and I kind of at the time I didn't realize I was kind of, I don't know, connected to it or anything like that. It came a little bit later, in about 2021, where I stumbled upon the lovely JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, and I was like, oh,
Yes! Sorry.
but it was kind of that which kind of made me go like, oh, okay, I think I've got this now, and then kind of looking at Doctor Who, and it was very nice to have this kind of companion to me, this show, which was always a bit of a part of me. Everyone was like, "Oh, Lord, the Doctor Who kid," and kind of growing up, figuring out who I was, and then kind of looking back at this thing that had been with me my whole life, and going, "Oh, you kind of you." It's almost like you saw it this whole time. Doctor Who series 4. Why didn't you tell me? And it was quite nice to kind of, I don't know, turn to, I don't know, a show I loved very much, and finding out it would accept me, and it always had accepted me, even when I didn't realize who I was. And it was quite a interesting timey-wimey thing, which I thought was, I don't know, I think that's quite nice. I think that's also a nice thing. It's, I don't know, being able to look at a story or something you love in a new light when you're older and realize it's there for you, in kind of a way. It's like, don't worry, we get it. And then almost perfectly timed, it starts really bringing kind of trans characters to the front of it, um on the show, and I was just like, oh, wonderful. Just perfect. No notes. And yeah, I don't know, so it was yeah, I think it was intertwined in some way with me. Yeah, I'll say that.
What's really exciting about this is that me and George have heard you ramble so much on Discord. Now I get to edit it.
Wonderful. That's all people ever want from me. Talking more about Doctor Who. I
I
never
enjoy
get
it.
complaints about that.
I enjoy it.
I feel like we need to have like almost like a Patreon exclusive or like something like the
I
unedited version.
I once, me and Law once stood in the exact same place in a train station for about an hour, and I was just listening to her talk, and it was one of the literally most insightful, amazing conversation I've ever had, and I didn't even realize an hour had passed.
Oh,
Aw.
see,
Yeah.
that's a
Real.
beautiful conversation.
That's
That's
very
that's the
sweet.
sign of a good
Thank you.
conversation.
Next set of questions. This is sort of a 2-for-1. So I'll put them as one. What does Doctor Who do really well in terms of LGBTQA rep, but what could it also do better? Because admittedly, there has been a few moments.
Oh,
The scene in Aliens of London where Rose was using gay as the insult, being an iffy one, but
Was that in Aliens of London? I did not know that.
that's the
yeah,
only
it's on
thing
the
is,
rooftop scene.
I'm not saying it's right, but having grown up in a council environment, that is very much what a lot of people are like.
Oh, that
So
was
it felt real. It felt real. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's good, but it goes back to what I was saying about when I was in school. It was because gay was used so casual as an insult. No one thought anything about it. They
yeah.
just say it. So I'm not saying it's
That is-
great, but it did feel quite realistic.
You've nailed exactly RTD's defense of that, actually, George. Because of course he wrote the line. Everyone was like, "Why would you do that?" And he was just like, "I wanted it to be realistic. That's
Yeah.
how it's used these days."
Oh yeah, I'm not
Product in its
saying.
time,
Yeah,
an
I won't
interesting
say
one.
it's. I won't say it's good, but everyone Rose wouldn't say that. I was like, Rose probably would have. At
Yeah,
least at
she
that
would.
at that point. At that point, she probably
Rose
would
would
have.
have said that. Rose would have said that because she was a 19-year-old that lived in a council estate. I think she would have maybe now probably not say that because she's probably traveled. Well, obviously has traveled with the doctor, and again, I think what's really good, and I think this it almost kind of needs to sort of happen is take just a normal person and kind of safely but surely like show them the other side and kind of sort of like educate them without educating them.
Hmm.
I think especially when it comes to the LGBT community, I strongly agree we need more trans and non-binary and asexual representation. I think that is definitely the next
Yes.
step. I definitely think that you know we definitely have had the LG and B represented very a lot, and that should also continue in a positive light. But I think it's time that we, focused on, especially in this current climate. I think we should focus on like just normalizing trans people because trans people are people. Like that's very freaking simple.
It's why
Like
I love it
Yeah.
in Church on Ruby Road, where one of Ruby's bandmates is trans, and it's not made a big deal of.
no.
They're just
Shout
there.
out to Trudy.
Yeah, that is that. Yep, they're just there,
That
chilling, just normal, which is exactly what trans people are. They're normal.
that
Love you,
reminds
Trudy.
me of sort of a fun bit of trivia. I don't know where it started, if it was like a fact book or or the Rose novelization or something. One of them acknowledges that Mickey was in a band, and one of the someone in his band was trans, and that character got name dropped in Doctor Who Redacted as well.
Oh goodness me.
But I think like we need, to be honest, if I feel like we do need to kind of have again a trans character, maybe in a sense beginning their transitioning or kind of like showing that journey and kind of having the doctor be kind of like it's okay, you can be who you want. Like it's going to be okay. Yes, you're going to have blocks around the road and you're going to have people that hate you for no reason whatsoever because you know and I think, yeah, I just think we need more of that, I think. And I think
Yeah.
it shouldn't be used as a joke or it shouldn't be used as a dark, twisted storyline, as a lot of big dramas that come out throughout the world, we should tell happy, positive trans and non-binary stories and even asexual stories. Like we should
Yeah.
focus on that. Like, I mean, again, you kind of look at Heartstopper, and they're doing, I think, wonders. I think, but there's always room for improvement. This is obviously our favorite show, Doctor Who, and we can be very critical of it. We can absolutely love it to pieces, but there's always going to be that. I feel like Doctor Who will always be there to guide people. And I think it's with Russell back. I think this is the perfect explanation, and this whole idea, like George has said, oh, Doctor Who is turned woke. It has been turned again since 1963. It has
Yeah.
been telling compelling stories, and it should be that way. And
I think people complain more now though because we're more aware of it.
yeah,
Yeah, 100%.
And the thing is, sometimes again, I can't always speak for how the representation is. Obviously, I can't personally say, "Oh, well, I think this was done well." I know the experience. No, as I said earlier, I don't.
Yeah.
But it is a case of, yeah. Sometimes I'll watch something in the show, and maybe it's handled a bit, clunky
yeah,
or something like that. But at the end of the day, it's still really good that it's there.
Mhm.
And I think that's
Hmm.
really important, especially now when you have things like Big Finish and all, who really aren't afraid to be like, yeah, no, look at all we're doing. So I think it's nice that all facets of the show are not, yeah, stranded.
I will get to
For
there
all the viewers
eventually.
that can't see us right now, Star just pulled out a box set of a Doctor Who Stranded.
Yeah.
Because it's an audio only podcast.
Oh,
Wait,
Yes.
is it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
But
thought it was
that-
4D.
That was the Dalek.
We said, Peter.
Instead.
But
It'll make a fantastic thumbnail for when I
Yeah.
re-edit it.
but it genuinely, it is a case of sometimes I think things in Doctor Who have been worded weirdly, like
Mm.
so to make in a way that makes the dialogue stand out in a way that doesn't feel natural. That's not because of the subject matter. That's just because of the way it's been worded. I think Doctor Who, it's good that Doctor Who isn't afraid to be. I mean, like going back to the Pertwee era, Alpha Centauri is non-binary.
Yeah.
And everyone
Yeah.
loves Alpha Centauri.
Alison Cherry's
Love
the
that little
best.
green alien.
I
But
haven't
then
seen
I have
anything with Alpha Centauri in it, so I did not know that.
Peladon stories are absolutely based. I'm just saying.
I took this over. I can plug this. Dawn Doctor coming soon to Time Siren Productions.
but
It's an audio, so I just want to let you know I'm rolling my eyes.
But my question is to obviously those who are non-binary and trans in this podcast. How do
Hello.
you feel about these? What can in your eyes can Doctor Who be better for your community?
Mm.
I mean, a lot of what's been said is pretty much just my views on it too, so I haven't been saying much on the topic. Like, I love the idea of doing someone who's like just starting out on their air, like arc. There's like a small bit of worry which comes to that, which like if they're like just starting out on it, would they show off their dead name? And if so, that'll cause like a lot of fire with the woke people. Oh, the anti-woke people. But I feel like there is very much merit to doing that. Like I will admit I have been working on a companion that does do that journey for one of my projects.
And you've been working with me as well when we've been discussing things for instability, which I've been really grateful for.
Yeah.
It's oh, sorry. Fire away.
So I was just going to say I want to see more trans non-binary characters in. We've had a good number in spin-off media, or at least a couple. But in the TV show, I want to see a trans and non-binary companion, like full on. Not like as much as I love Rose and the Star Beast. Halfway through that episode, it really feels like she kind of gets pushed to the side. and it very much becomes the Dr. Donna show until the very end. And I know that was the story they were telling. I'm not saying that was a bad thing or anything like that. But like, I would have liked her to be a bigger part of the story. Heck, I would have liked her to go on to be a full companion.
Yeah.
And also I don't know how many have we had really many trans and non-binary writers
I was going
on
to
the
bring this
TV.
up. We need more trans and non-binary writers.
Like Juno Dawson is right there. She has
I'm
written.
waiting. That was exactly the person I was going to recommend because they're a fantastic writer and also just a lover of Doctor Who. So I think next season, Russell, come on, get
Yeah.
Juno.
Yeah, they have to.
She's done what? She's done a Doctor Who novel. She's done Big Finish. She was the head writer on both series of Redacted.
Redacted was such a good series.
So
I haven't seen the second season, but...
sorry. And the Torchwood audio she wrote is the best Torchwood thing of ever. It is
Which
so
Torchwood
good.
did she?
The Dollhouse. It's a Charlie's Angels pastiche.
Okay,
It's
that one's
so
on my
good.
that one's on my list of things I need to listen to.
But yeah, I'm trying to think of actually just queer companions in Doctor Who. Well, obviously we had Jack, but then I don't think we had another. There was enough implication that Clara was.
Yeah,
Bill?
Clara's by
Bill Potts.
Yeah, but she was after Clara. I was going in order. Yeah, Bill very much. I love Bill.
Bill, my darling.
Everyone says, and I don't agree with this, but I want to hear it from the people who would be able to tell me more about this. A lot of people would come up to me and say, Bill's really bad. She brings up that she's gay in every episode. And I was just kind of rewatching series 10. I'm like, not really.
No, she doesn't. The only
Yeah.
time she brings it up is when it's like brought up. It's just brought up naturally, like the one with the Romans flirting.
Yeah, and
I
Like, no,
love
again,
that.
sorry.
I have come out and I've said that I think the only time it ever got brought up that made me go, this could have been written for something else, is when her and 12 are about to say what they think is their very last words to one another, and Bill's isn't like a oh goodbye. It's just like, oh, I like women and people my own age, right? And 12's just like, yeah. And I'm like, in any other situation, I'd love that dialogue. I think it's just because the fact they were these are literally like, hey, these might be the very last things we ever say to each other because we know this is a suicide mission. That's the only time I went.
I disagree. I really like that because a thing that does come up not very regularly is that Bill isn't really out to her mother. And there are those kinds of bits kind of in the early season, early parts of the season, where it's like, oh well, men, ho ho ho, and Bill's kind of like, yeah, not into those, and it's something she does kind of have to be a bit kind of hidden about, but the Doctor's totally okay with it, and I think Bill really does kind of appreciate that, and I really like that moment, especially after after Bill has gone through what is basically an allegory for almost conversion therapy, which is, I gotta say, fab way to fab idea to go with the Cybermen. What a brilliant idea, Alfie Shaw. Oh my goodness!
But this is what I mean,
and I really like that. I don't know.
But-
I don't know. She's had a terrible life the past like 10 years in Old Enough and Time and Doctor Falls, and she's had I don't know, everything kind of taken from her. And even though I don't know, there's a loss of identity which she's fighting with. I really like in the final moment she's kind of able to turn to what is essentially kind of a parent mentor character, because of course, having a basically a parent or a, I don't know, just someone to kind of lead and guide her and show her the world, basically. Not just the universe, but also just help her in her studies and help her learn about life and who she is. To basically just kind of turn to them at the very end and just say like, "Hey, I'm gay," and just having him go like, "Yeah, yeah,
Cool.
It's just, I think, a really nice final
Well,
moment
well, this is
that we
why
can kind of share together.
that's why I'm glad I brought it up, because that's why I said I've never thought about it from that perspective before. I thought about it from the dramatic point of, oh, it's their last goodbye, and then you brought it up like this. I'm like, actually, no, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's
And
how
this
you're
is
meant to do coming out before a big dramatic death thing. Supernatural.
oof.
Anyway, yeah.
Why?
But yeah, in terms of Doctor Who spin-off media isn't afraid to do like LGBT companions, and I mean we brought up Stranded a second ago, and obviously you have Tanya who is trans, and then Liv is bisexual, isn't she?
At least.
Yeah, at least bisexual. So spin-off media is definitely not afraid to tackle that. I'm guessing because they have less worry of people breathing down their neck saying, "Oh, you can't be as open with this,"
Yeah.
which is a shame because I think there shouldn't be any. I don't see any reason why stuff like that should be hidden.
Spin-off media has given us Oliver, a gay companion to the first Doctor.
I listened to them recently. Actually, they're really good. Those stories.
The second one, I forget what it's called, but when he essentially comes, because he's from like the 30s or the 40s or
Yeah.
something, the reason he's become a companion is he's on the run because he's going to be arrested for being gay, and
jeez.
and he's hiding it from the Doctor and Stephen because he doesn't have a concept that they're from more enlightened times. And Stephen knows he has a secret, and when he finally forces it out of Oliver, Stephen's response is to just laugh because he's from the far future, and the concept of homophobia is just silly to him. And I love that.
And I like how it challenges the ideals, because a lot of people will, a lot of people now when they look at the show, they go, "Oh, the first Doctor would never like." Not even William Hartnell, just they say, "Oh, the first Doctor wouldn't stand for people like this." And you have, like you said, you have him traveling with an open, we know with a gay companion, and he doesn't care that the companion's gay, and I
Not at
adore
all.
that.
But
Yeah.
also, spin-off media has revealed that Liz Shaw, the third Doctor companion, is married to a woman.
Mm.
Shout out to you, Liz.
I'm sure there's other
Yes.
examples, but well, we already mentioned the intentional lesbian subtext with Ace and Survival, not to mention all the accidental lesbian subtext in stories like Battlefields.
Also, my God,
Slips in there.
Ace has so much sex in the spin-off medias. My God.
Oh.
I mean, Ace spent however many novels running around in a latex catsuit. The writers had ideas about Ace.
and that kind of slightly fetishizes it. And
Yeah.
if it's that kind of
Yeah.
is a bit of a grey area where you kind of go, actually, that's a little bit kind of like it's a bit iffy,
There's a
Yeah, it is
difference
a bit.
between if someone's quite open with their sexuality, and I don't just mean like they're gay or they're straight, whatever, but I mean just in terms of they're quite a sexual person. That's fine, but I do agree with you say a lot of media will just be like, "Oh, these two characters are lesbians. How hot can we make this?"
Yeah.
It's just like, no. They don't just have casual conversations or drinking tea. No, they're on each other's laps making out, and I'm like,
It's very much of
no.
the male gaze sometimes, and it's the straight male gaze where it kind of goes a bit really fetish and too sexualized, and it's a bit like, actually, no, these two women are in love with each other because they're intimate, or they have a romantic bond to it, or it could be aromantic, or it could just simply that they're very close, and yeah, they may kiki and kai kai, or these guys or whoever, they may kiki and kai kai, and it shouldn't be fetishized as such.
I watch a lot of anime, and like this is a bit, but like just in general, when I'm watching anime, I do find a lot of the time there's quite a few shows where they will have same-sex couples, but it is more of a gag. Now it is getting a lot better than it was. It is getting a lot better than it was. There have been some, gay gay stories, and the characters are just treated as normal relationships. But I've seen quite a few where it's quite fetishized. And it is, and again, I'm kind of glad Doctor Who doesn't do that much. I know, like we said, I think there are some probably spin-offy stuff that might, more like 90s kind of stuff. I mean, look at some of the um you know, unofficial but kind of official, the BBV kind of stuff. But
That's where the whole Liz Shaw married to a woman thing came from.
yeah, but that's been there are some good things, but yeah, even as someone I've seen it, I do get what you mean. I've seen it a lot where. I think that's why for ages it is treated as if you have two gay characters, everyone's like, this is a scandal. No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's definitely covered.
Did we
Okay,
answer the
so
question?
No, we just kind of. Well, in a way, I think we did. I think we kind of went over things that Doctor Who has done pretty well, and we have, like, with what Guide was just pointing out, we have discussed things that Doctor Who could do better, which
Mhm.
admittedly it has, because like a lot of that stuff was in the 90s, and well,
Yeah.
personally, I still think there's still a little bit of issues. Like
yeah,
the Starbase dialogue was a little clunky. But I appreciate that they're
The-
trying.
and it didn't feel like it was a tick a box thing. It did feel like this was genuinely very well intentioned, just
Yeah.
maybe slightly done a bit clunky.
I was talking to some people about it, and a lot of thing kind of saying was like, oh, but it feels, too, I don't know, for an alien that travels in space and time, asking an alien its pronouns feels a bit, 21st century kind of motivated. Like that would be something, because specifically asking for pronouns is, I mean, that kind of topic has of course been present in kind of other ways, but as of kind of a very kind of prominent thing, very kind of normalized, having it a feature on most social medias and having things like badges become, very common. I have seen people kind of talk about it, kind of like it doesn't feel like a natural kind of thing. Or it's like it feels like it's adding it in because it's the 21st century and this is the kind of thing that does. And why would Doctor Who suddenly start subscribing to this? And I just think, like, if it doesn't happen now, when is it meant to happen?
Yeah.
Like when
Yeah.
would you? When would it be too late? When would it be, too early? It's like, oh, the Doctor asking me pronouns, well, of course, because that's big. And it's like, would you prefer 5 years later? Like, when would you want it? How would you want it done?
But it's also
Like,
the
it's
Doctor. Like they said, the Doctor goes through all these different time periods. Of course, you don't know what races you're going to meet, and you might meet a race that is constantly gender fluid, so the pronouns change, say, daily. So of course the Doctor's
Ooh,
going
no.
to go, "Hey, what are
yeah,
your pronouns?" Like, I think that, and
exactly.
that's
And
why I don't get what's so weird about it.
Rewinding to what we're saying, Alpha Centauri, the whole scene does revolve around the Doctor being like, "No, these would be the pronouns." Admittedly, the pronouns the would have been better as they them, but
Yeah,
also
he
we're
goes.
we're in an age with neo pronouns being commonly accepted now as well. So
yeah,
looking back, I'd argue it was pretty ahead of its time when the third Doctor was just going, "Yeah, no, these are the pronouns."
yeah,
I mean, for the early 70s, yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Joe doesn't bat an eyelid. Joe's just like, oh, and then throughout it's just like, there is I'm pretty sure they do refer to Alpha Centauri. Then I know the line is when Joe goes, oh, like, is he a he or a she? Oh, neither. They are an it. Like, not the best phrasing, but we get
does
what
he say
the.
it's in it?
I'm
Yeah,
pretty.
no, he does. He
Yeah,
does genuinely say it's an they're an it.
yeah, because I used to listen to the audio book of
Yeah.
Curse of Peladon all the time, constantly. So I remember that line very well because Pertwee just very voice very much stands how he goes, oh, like they are neither. Just like I think he goes, oh, he isn't it. Like they're in a hermaphrodite exopod, and then just goes into the explanation. But then I'm pretty sure afterwards, Alpha Centauri is just referred to as like they.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always
agree.
I always thought it was because Joe refers to Alpha Centauri as a he, isn't it? Joe's like, "Oh, I think she's quite lovely," or is she a he? And he goes, "He is an it." Like that's how I
It's something like
heard
that.
it.
It's
I
not
didn't
done.
picture it as like her pronouns are they them.
Oh,
Like I
yeah,
didn't
oh yeah, no,
see
no,
it
it's
like
not
that.
that. Joe does respond to the question. It is Joe starting the question, but
Oh yeah,
yeah, but the doctor just go, "Oh, he isn't it."
I see. Oh, no, no.
Which the thing is, now we look at it and go, that could have been phrased a bit better. But at the end of the day, it's just. But I do like in the context of the show, it's the doctor going, "Oh no, Joe, no, this person doesn't subscribe to your notion of
Yeah.
like a binary gender."
But
And
also bearing in mind
Yeah.
this was the early 70s, and
Yeah.
anything kind of like that, as much as definitely throughout gender identity, we definitely had that non-binary essence, and we had non-binary people, but there wasn't a word for it, or there wasn't the right lexical language. I mean, again, it came, you've got people as non-binary.
honestly,
Yeah,
what the show's doing now feels like a natural evolution of what Terrence Sticks and Barry Letts were doing back in
Yeah.
the 70s. It feels like a very natural evolution.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. And I think the only reason the Doctor wasn't going up to, I don't know, any alien in Genesis of the Daleks and saying like, "What are your pronouns?" is just because Doctor Who is a fictional thing written by people.
But no, I agree. People have to also remember the show. Yeah, like you said, it's just written by people. It is a show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's fiction.
Yeah, and
It's lovely. But
people are more aware. People are more aware of it now. So that's why the Doctor will go and ask or make comment to, "Hey, this person might not be binary or something."
Right, well, we've pretty much gone through the entire section, but for the normal Doctor Who bit. But before we move on to the fan Doctor bit, yes, James, I can see you getting excited. Favorite LGBTQA characters in the Whoniverse? Obviously, we've mentioned a few. I already know what Peter's going to say, so I'll let Peter go first.
Izzy Sinclair.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, briefly mentioned earlier, the first Eighth Doctor companion in the Doctor Who magazine comics. I kind of love the origins of the character sexuality, and that the writers always intended it. They were originally never going to see it. It was just, how do we explain why this 17-year-old girl doesn't fancy the Doctor when he looks like Paul McGann? Which is a valid question, because everyone fancies Paul McGann.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they did make it like at the end, it's revealed, and it is somewhat used to kind of explain why she was a bit distant with like her adoptive parents and whatnot, because she kind of had this secret. But it's probably because, but looking back, it's like, teenage, closeted queer, big science fiction nerd. Yeah, I really related to Izzy, even though I was reading the comics about 10 years later. But yeah, I love Izzy is my favorite. Not count. I think she's the second queer companion, not counting all the ones like added later.
Retroactively or retroactively,
Yeah.
we've discovered they're queer.
Yeah,
Mm.
as I say, Russell T Davies revealed one of the novel companions for the Seventh Doctor to be bisexual. I think that was Chris or Krez. I haven't really read.
I know who you mean. I think I know.
Yeah, but
was-
yeah, Izzy. Other than that,
Lord.
obviously, love Bill, love Yaz, Tosh. I really liked in Torchwood. She was one of the probably the most likable person there.
I would hang out with Tosh. The rest, I'm like,
Yeah.
you're
I
entertaining.
can appreciate them as characters.
Yeah,
but I
yeah.
do not want to. I don't want to go out drinking with them. I wouldn't. I don't want to do that.
Not even Ianto?
Ianto got so many people killed with that Cyberwoman thing. The fact he still had a job the next day is the biggest plot hole in
Okay, so other than the
Torchwood.
Cyberwoman shit.
I'd probably hang out with him until he was like, "Yeah, I kind of, kept my like
No,
psychological augmented girlfriend in the basement."
He's just sat with you and
Oh,
you're
I
just
feel like, okay.
talking. He'll just turn to you and go, "So do you wanna come meet my girlfriend?" You're like, "No, thank you. No, thank you. No, thank you."
I'm good. I'm good.
actually saying, Tosh, I kind of wish more had been done on the show, because there's the one episode where the alien woman seduces her, and it's if I remember, I can't remember if the episode says, but I think it does that's sort of Tosh's first queer experience. That would have been interesting to see it going forward, her maybe questioning her sexuality. Hell, that would have been a great way to show her also getting over Owen, which is something I really wish had happened.
Owen's such an interesting character, but my god, no, Owen's a dick. Just
Yeah.
He is the
Fantastic character.
I
Hate him.
am not gonna say it because we've all seen it, we all know, but how they introduce him in Torchwood?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That how did were so many people involved in the writing and making of that show, and no one went, this is a bit dodgy.
Also, I know we're backtracking a bit, but speaking of Torchwood, it was that whole thing James brought up earlier of, like being fetishized. It's that whole bit where Gwen has to kiss the sex gas possessed woman, and it's very much played as especially when you got Owen just like, I'm gonna film this.
Oh my god!
The fact part of the promotion, or at least the interviews for that show, was all the main characters are bisexual, and
anyone could fuck anyone. That was the whole thing.
It felt just more fetishizy then. To me,
it's especially season one. Season one is very much we have to prove that we're set in Doctor Who's universe, but we're not for kids. Get the sex.
It's mature Doctor Who, and then you get the lovely bits of like Children of Earth, where it's like it's mature Doctor Who.
I sometimes think about when I was once tasked to write a sex gas related story. I'm very glad that never came to be.
James. Where would you have the opportunity to do a sex gas episode?
Well,
I will tell you that after this.
There's a series of Doctor Who fan films, American ones, from either 2005, right when the show came back, or they might have been just before. And one of their episodes, the villain, they never say it's a gas that's possessed the woman, but it is literally the same. She wants to screw the Doctor to death, like the sex. And I'm like, this fan film did that episode of Torchwood like a few years earlier.
Yeah. That's why UK Doctor Who fans hate Americans.
This is also the fan series that had a race of aliens called the Paper Bagians, because they all wore space helmets that resembled humans wearing paper bags on their heads.
Goodness.
That is how you effectively use a budget.
Also, I'm just saying, if we're talking about favorite LGBTQA characters, Valerie Lockwood. I'm just got.
You beat me to it. Literally trying to say. Get back to the question at hand. I think I'd love to be the first to say Valerie D. Lockwood, and I up, and I'm glaring at you right now.
Which one's Valerie?
The one I'm besties with.
Get out! Get out!
Okay, you all spoke at the same time there.
Valerie,
Sorry,
I think she's
said
companion.
Companion of the 11th Doctor in the 11th Doctor.
I haven't listened to them yet. They're expensive.
But they're so good.
You asked a question for the podcast.
Yeah. I haven't listened to the podcast.
But by the time this is out, the podcast will be out, so maybe you will laugh.
You told me you were going to timestamp. You were going to tell me what timestamp to go to for my answers and avoid spoilers.
So anyway, Valerie Lockwood is the master.
I had a nickel for every 11th
companion
that ended up being the master. I'd have 2 nickels.
I'm very scared now that Laura is just going to turn up, because Laura does know where I live.
I do.
I do.
Don't worry, we'll start walking.
But yeah, I won't say much because I don't want to spoil people. But just Valerie. I'll let Laura say more because I feel I've taken a lot from Laura. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's fine. I don't mind. It's not a competition. It's not a.
Okay, then why is the sniper pointing outside my window?
What do you mean it's not a competition?
Close your eyes.
This is clearly a gale.
Who's going to win the Pride special?
Who wins? Who wins the LGBTQA community? Who wins?
There is a trophy, right?
For you to gay off your whole life.
But
trophy.
yeah, I I really enjoy Valerie. Just in all shapes and forms. I mean, there's a lot to say about her as aside from just like being like a queer character. You know, challenges with the Doctor, the relationship, the dynamics. I can go off for ages, and I shan't because this is not a podcast about that series. But just having her, I don't know, just kind of. I enjoy the stories where it's just kind of casually explored, and I won't go into too many spoilers or anything because it's a very new series.
It is normalized. It's very normalized.
I really enjoy not only having it be a casual thing, how she can kind of express herself with other people. I really enjoy that aspect of it, but I also do enjoy especially one story in particular that really does focus in on it and really takes advantage of having a openly queer character as a part of the main cast, basically. You know, it's a fantastic story, and if you didn't have a character like Valerie in it, it just wouldn't work as well. And I really appreciate not only how it can do it casually and do it very naturally. It's I don't know, it's just a love story.
Yeah.
You know, that's what it is.
With two characters who just, you know, both happen to be the same gender.
Yeah, and I think that's really quite beautiful, and it's a wonderful, from a storytelling perspective, it's a wonderful story. But not being able to kind of take advantage and really and also do an episode that's so I don't know, so real as well. And again, that we kind of talked a bit about how Doctor Who can educate people on LGBT matters and things like that, and I think that's really wonderful, and I enjoy the Chronicles series for exploring another facet of that, albeit a much seriouser one, a much more darker one, and a bit more of a disturbing one, but it's one people should know about, and I really enjoy how it just takes advantage of that with the Doctor Who toy box and the wonderful characters at hand. Valerie is wonderful. Fab all around.
I am very much looking forward to you hearing the podcast because we have quite a significant section talking about that.
I'm really happy to hear that. I'm looking forward to that too. because I don't know, getting to hear it from them, creatives behind it all. It's really looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, that whole bit, because Valerie is on my list as well. That whole bit, I think that was the point we were all crying together.
Yeah.
Understandably.
And it was just a very, very beautiful and passionate speech about gay rights from Sapphire.
I was just gonna say I don't know if I know Peter hasn't listened to it. I know Iris is slowly getting through the 11th Doctor stuff. I don't know if James has or
I don't know. Like I've been I've not been listening to a lot of Big Finish. I will have to kind of sort of say, but I think in regards to kind of my favorite sort of LGBTQI plus companion sort of character actually, I mean again I would have to say it is Bill Potts, and you know I think she was a positive, and she was a really positive character, and I think also I think I'm very glad that you know we're getting there. We're getting there with queer companions as such.
I love how none of us said the Doctor.
That was going to be my one.
No one brought up the fact that the Doctor is very, very.
I was waiting till the end, and then I'd be like, "Well, my favorite, because none of you said it, is the
Doctor Who."
The Doctor is I always say the Doctor is every sexuality under the sun, and I think
at
that's
some point.
Yeah, exactly. Because I've always said if you ask me as like a collective, as just like as the Doctor as a whole, I say the Doctor's probably pansexual, but you can have, and it's something I know because I'm on the document that we'll talk about when we get to the fan related stuff. But you can have some doctors are a bit more, open sexually than others, and it's good. It's good to get those dynamics.
I like to think of the Doctor as asexual but panromantic. Unless if we're just talking classic Who, also aromantic. Until the TV movie, that was one of the more interesting parts of the character was they never fell in love.
Every day, I wish I was in Daphne at Ashbrook's position, just being kissed by Paul under that tree.
Well, now George Gardner's revealing obvious secrets.
I am very. If you see my Twitter, I'm very open to that. I will happily have Paul McGann kiss me.
George, did you say the quiet part out loud?
No.
He's gone and done it, hasn't he?
Well, okay, Gardner, I'll save you. We'll move on.
Wait, I never even got to say
no,
what my
Iris!
favorite
Who's
character
Iris?
You know, I was going to get into good. Well, yeah.
Go on then. Go on.
is.
You can save George Gardner from his blabbing.
I won't go on like a bit. I won't. I'll keep this brief because you guys want to move on. But I have two in mind. One is from Torchwood, but wasn't any of the people that it listed. That's Captain John Hart.
The man who openly said he wanted to shag a poodle.
Did he say that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Look, we've all seen Beauty and the Beast. Okay, Disney has normalized it.
In his defense, he didn't know what a poodle was. I think he just thought it was another sentient life form on Earth.
Probably. I don't know. I just found him really interesting throughout his appearances on both that plus his main range story on in the Torchwood audios. I've
heard that's really good.
Yeah, that one is really great. And then the other one is Cleo from Doctor Who Redacted. I was very interested in Redacted since it started, but since it was announced, but as the episodes were going out, I found myself constantly going back specifically for Cleo because I found her journey throughout the entire series really, really fun, really fun, and really, really interesting. And I really like Redacted.
Me too.
Redacted was great. Okay, moving on to the fan doctory stuff. James, this is your time to shine.
Oh,
also my time to shine, and pretty much everyone except Law's time to shine. Sorry, Law.
yeah.
Working on
Get
things.
to the Doctor Club.
I'm under
Ouch.
self-imposed NDAs about inheritance.
I really thought you were about to say Exile, and I was like, Lord, no.
Here, I'll give you some Gormako stuff to talk about.
This I don't know how much of this what I'm about to say will be able to go into the podcast.
If you guessed none of it, that was the correct answer. None of it can go on the podcast. All of it is gone. Didn't exist. Didn't happen. You will never hear of it. Well, you will when Inheritance eventually does come out. But this conversation? No. You didn't hear it. Not here. Sorry. Got nothing else to say. It's just not here. Anyway. Time skip. Right. Fan Doctor related stuff. We'll get straight into it because obviously a lot of us have our own series, are working on our own series and whatnot. And a lot of us will have what I'm about to ask, but I will ask anyway because it's on my special little sheet and I quite like my little sheet. Do you have any LGBTQA characters in your series? I suspect James might.
What do you mean? I don't know what you mean. Well, obviously,
Yes, James is famous for not playing the straight doctor.
No, it's the butch. It's the butch doctor.
I don't mean to shock anyone, but I'm starting to get a bit of an inkling that James might not be straight.
What?
I have. Excuse me. I have been with. I have hung out with this man in Cardiff, and I can tell you, my God, he's as straight as anything.
My scream accidentally woke up my dog. Hi, Bella.
No,
We didn't even hear it. Was it a dog?
No, anyway, I'm going to answer the question, and you will be silent for young man.
Yes,
Anyway, sorry. Yes, so obviously as the queer doctor, you know, on TT Productions, you know, it was very adamant that I would have queer companions. So, I mean, obviously the doctor is queer. Surprise, surprise. Definitely this one is he's very again, he's flirtatious, he camp, he's very, you know, he uses his sexuality as a shield sometimes and he has this kind of I'm gonna be who I am regardless of what people think, and that was kind of a sort of a in a way when I was, you know, when it comes to writing, which I'll go a bit later. But yeah, so so we've got the Doctor who's queer. We have Miss Erin Tanager, R.I.P.
so
Yes, who was a lesbian. We have TJ from the 1950s who is gay, and that was great to do a kind of like a sort of a queer character in a setting where it was forbidden. You then have Brigadier Girardi, who's bisexual. You also have Asmund, who's bisexual. We also have Gigi, who is a trans woman. That was very adamant for me to have a trans character, and especially to be played by a trans actress. Billy, she's amazing, absolutely amazing. And then we do have a a non-binary character coming in Melvin Mysteries season 2. But I won't spoil that. But yeah, no, we do have a variety of queer characters, and especially when it comes to kind of the companions and stuff like that, it was very adamant for me to kind of do that. Cressida, I mean, she's a Silurian. She's very, again, I don't think she kind of knows what she likes. You know, I think she is a Gydra, really. She doesn't know what she likes, or you know, she's just like,
is that the new term? A
yeah,
Gydra. I'll take
the
it.
Gydra, yeah.
What's your sexuality, George Gydra?
I'm in my guide era.
Uh,
I love you, Law.
I love you too, man.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, there's other queer characters, like one-off queer characters as well, and queer Doctor. And yeah, that's what we've got. But as a yeah,
I just off that, you're saying Miss Erin R.I.P. Funny story from my perspective. I'm in a couple episodes of Queer Doctor series 2 or 3.
you're in series 3.
3, thank you. And I remember we were all recording that, and all the characters. And obviously, none of series 3 is out yet, so I don't know anything that's happened in the first. And everyone's just talking about the really horrible thing that happened to Miss Erin, and me as a fan is like, what?
And then again, it's the case of, I mean, it was so. I think so many people were really heartbroken.
Oh God! Like,
so many people.
I obviously knew
Okay.
something like that was coming because of the download of the episodes, and I was heartbroken.
Well, can't imagine having a LGBT doctor that has a LGBT companion that gets killed. Couldn't be me.
No.
But
Ellie Brooks, R.I.P.
Yeah,
that one
they were a
also
real one.
broke me. Shall I go now or?
Yeah, no, go.
Yeah, sure.
We'll get for the edge of a lot, and then we'll go to Iris.
Obviously, in my series that started and then kind of ended and has been restarted, and the episodes are gone. But some stuff is the same. My Doctor is asexual, aromantic. His first companion, Art, is gay. That's something that was in the original. It's going to be a bigger part of the new one, partially because now Art's home era isn't 2002 or 2003. It's now 1989, which was definitely a less accepting time. So that, no, I mean, it's me. There'll be other queer characters, but I'll also bring up Life Goes On, the episode I wrote for Stars series, where the features a punk band, and I specifically wrote the lead singer, Europa, hoping that a trans punk rocker that I follow on Twitter would agree to do it, and she did.
Shout out to
the-
Ada. We love her.
Ada, yeah,
We do.
fantastic. I will say the script never says the character is trans, but it was written specifically for her, and I mean, it is awesome. I mean, this is someone who every time they perform on stage does their thingy injection. What's it called?
Estrogen.
Does their estrogen injection whenever they perform on stage, which is just kind of awesome. Have I written anything? I mean, I wrote a Peyton Ostergang short. That was technically that was weird.
You play the monk, and the monk that I'm writing for you is definitely not going to be straight.
Fair. I mean, I
Uh,
just play that as wormy as possible.
Yeah, no, I picked you specifically because I was like, this monk's not going to be straight.
Oh, that's why you picked me.
That and your phenomenal talent.
Yeah, the talent was also a fault. But yeah, no, going on from there, regenerating on it, as it were, because I'm next in line. Obviously, star, lesbian, which woohoo. But Ellie is was non-binary. Future companions. We've got a non-binary otter. Iris, that's where you shout "yay" for the otter. Iris, don't let me down.
And action.
Acknowledge the otter, darn it.
If you cast
What?
me as the otter, you'd never get this humpy.
We cast
Look.
you as the cat.
Look, Star, it's not in my contract to say yay every time the otter is mentioned.
It is on the podcast.
I feel
It's,
bad that
it's
yay.
not in my contract. If
I
you would
feel-
like me to do that, we would need to renegotiate.
I think you need to reread the
contract.
contract. So yeah, no, we've got like Ellie non-binary, Skipper is going to be non-binary. We're doing a trans companion with Kit, who's going to explore his gender journey throughout the series, and I'm probably going to include more. Like, yeah, no, there's a fair list lined up. But if we skip a few faces, actually no, let's not skip a few faces because I should also shout out Cass's doctor,
Mm.
who is gay, and there will be a lot of Doctor X Master. I'm allowed to say that. Now moving on.
Well, before I get into the fairy tale doctor side of things, going by Doctor X Master, I'm going to tackle the blonde doctor a bit because on What for Foale. No, because there is I mean a lot of representation on What for Foale, just in general the entire What for Foale team. But I think things we've discussed, because the blonde doctor obviously being a doctor that is very notably split through multiple timelines, we can explore different relationships, and one that's been very important to both me and Iris is the one that we've been slowly developing. You've got hints in a few cameo appearances that have happened of the dynamic between the blonde doctor and the master played by Iris, and we're very as someone who, no, because I think there's nothing wrong with it, just because I've just never been one for Doctor X Master, just because I'm like, I don't know why, I just, but I'm like, I like it when it's done really well. I think it can be done incredibly well. It's just, I think it's because when I got into Doctor Who, it was always the, oh my god, David Tennant's gonna fuck John Sim everywhere. That just put me off it constantly because it was, the most obviously, hi, I'm 10 and I think this is what sex is like kind of fanfic you'd see when I first got into Doctor Who. And so, but me and Iris have sat down and discussed a lot about it, and I'm really looking forward to where that's going. And some things I won't say just because I can't say much, but I know me and James have discussed some stuff for a version of the Blonde Doctor, which I'm looking forward to really exploring. And there is some stuff where during the Blonde Doctor's era that I'm not particularly involved with in the writing side of things. I'm letting someone who is very personal to tell the story, but there's going to be a lot of discussion about representation and, growing up in different ways. So I'm quite glad I have a doctor that does that. But it's why now going on to Fairy Tale, I think Fairy Tale does that a lot as well. Fairy Tale himself is Pan. And a line that got a big reaction when the 60th aired is when the companion goes, "Oh, like Hannah, played by Spoon, goes, "Oh, British men," and the Fairy Tale Doctor shouts back, "Not British, debatably a man," and everyone's like, "Yo, wait, he they Fairy Tale?" And I'm like, probably, because I look at it from a perspective of the Doctor just has such a weird, complicated thing with gender that the Doctor, that at least my Doctor, is very much there like, I'll say he because it's easier, but I probably don't actually care. But he's a very open Doctor, very accepting of like anyone, and we do have like obviously we have Hannah Valentine, played by Spoon, who is a lesbian companion, and we do have plans in the works to kind of show that more, explore things with that. We have I don't know how much you want me to say, Iris, on the Orion front.
It's your series. You can say what you want.
We have we're exploring basically gender identity in Time Lords with the character of Orion, whose first incarnation is going to start off, is going to be male, and the next is female, and we're going to explore that, and we have some really, really interesting. I know Iris is currently working on something, which when she told me the premise, my God, Iris, you nearly made me cry when you were talking to me about the short.
Oh shit! Yeah.
Yeah, no, that nearly made me cry. We have the things we have Vin Valtain, played by late Basil, who is literally going back the whole thing we discussed of, because they're from the future. Yeah, the idea of being defined by who you fancy just doesn't make sense to them. So they're very much a bit River Song-esque. They'll flirt with anyone, they'll be with anyone. Basically, if they like you, that's it. And going by, so we do have other Doctors in the timeline. Katie Haynes who plays the Starlight Doctor, has very much said to me that their Doctor is very much asexual, which is quite interesting when you put her up against a flirty character like Vin. And I won't say too much but we are having a non-binary Doctor in the future in the instability side of things. I don't know what other stuff Time Siren's got cooking.
That's right, guys. I'm officially a doctor in the Yin.
Anyway,
Put it here first.
in
on the awful lot
regards,
of running podcast.
in regards
Endorsed, confirmed, talking over Star.
Anyway,
Do I
bear in mind I have disconnect buttons. No, oh God, what was I going to say? You're Time Siren, yes. Okay. In terms of Time Siren, like obviously we've covered Duffel Star and Grey. Jack has said Red Twilight will be asexual. Dawn, I feel Dawn just won't have time to fuck. We're putting Dawn through the ringer.
I have to go to the office.
just like baby, I've been waiting for you. Not now. I have to do my business.
That is
Right,
pretty
well,
much what it is. Dawn would fuck if they had the time.
Yeah, no, I the thing is, it's a long running joke about the amount of Doctors I play, but it is quite fun being able to explore these different kind of aspects, all these different Doctors, because you have the wife Doctor who I play for Man at Desk, who is very much very asexual, though that's led to quite a lot of interesting dynamics, and a lot of memes for some reason. Iris is holding back. I can see. Iris and Star are like, there's so many jokes we can make now.
Yeah, we'll pack it up.
Couldn't have said it better than myself.
Anyway, talking of yourself, Iris, your LGBTQA characters.
Okay, so my LGBTQ rep is strange because like when it started out, it was purely coincidental, and it just came with the actors that I cast at the time. I'll start with my Gormako stuff just because that's where I started. I want to say the first like openly LGBT rep I had was with Torchwood 10, which is just my fan made Torchwood team. Where like I never actually specifically mentioned what any of their sexuality is, but one character in particular, or Vivian, is a trans woman, which it's past Iris never brought up, and it's just like, oh yeah, no, she's a woman, because I cast a trans woman in the role, and she does brilliantly. Erica, amazing. Hope to work with her again at some point in the future. Lost contact with her after I graduated, but brilliant person. But I just, for the longest time, I never actually clocked that she was trans, so I just wrote Vivian in her character just at like as a woman, in which, yeah, works well. But that was like the first even like coincidental LGBT rep I've done. In terms of other characters, while the last Doctor is very, very, very much not LGBTQ characters around them in the timeline are Renegade specifically is I think is Pan. Still working that one out as he is still early in development. Meanwhile, over in like the classy Doctor era, his first companion, Julia, while I really sucked at writing at the time, did have a romantic connection with Brigadier Laurel Lee for a brief stint before she had to leave the TARDIS because I was rushing that entire era. Julia and the Brigadier was the first time I wrote like a lesbian relationship, and even then it was sidestepped with, oh my god, we got to stop the Master from getting god powers, which pretty poorly done on my end, but working on remaking that do it better. I mean, not technically a Doctor Who character, but very Doctor Who adjacent. Quinston. Quinston, while I don't classify him as a Doctor Who character, has like whenever he is in the Doctor Who like universe and interacting with those characters, there is I wrote a very interesting dynamics between him and one incarnation of the Doctor, not saying who that is. But I made sure when I was writing it to never treat Quinston's attraction to that Doctor as a joke, and like that's the butt of the joke. I made sure to keep that part just like completely sincere, and it's just interesting part of Quinston's character, and ends up having a really sweet ending to the episode where that happens. Even though that episode, the rest of it is completely, utterly weird and insane. And then in terms of other universes, obviously I have the Magistrate Master over at Fourth Wall Productions. George already talked about that.
Love you, Pookie.
Thanks, Sugar. Anyway, there's also the Inverse Doctor, who is a non-binary incarnation of the Doctor. Not really much else to say about about that one. Like I don't, in terms of Inverse's character specifically, I don't really intend on exploring that part just oh yeah, no, they're non-binary, and that's who they are. That's fine. And just rolling with that. There's other like LGBT representation that at era that takes the limelight. Can't say much about that. That's mostly that was mostly Spoon's planning. I'll give Spoon this. Most of the LGBT representation, while I may have started it, was mostly fleshed out with them in terms of inverse, and I will always credit Spoon as being the one that makes that part shine.
Spoon's very good at that.
Yeah, Spoon is very good at that.
Like genuinely, I have found sometimes I have discussed with Spoon if I'm ever getting worried about am I doing this right, I will speak to Spoon, and she's very much good at going, no, that's fine, or right, listen here, this is how we're going to fix this, and do it properly, and which I'm really grateful for.
Love you, Spoon.
Love you.
I was just going to mention there's some other doctors that are either or non-binary, like one that hasn't been officially revealed, and then some trans femme doctors. There's that is technically officially revealed, but the arc involving that hasn't happened yet. But there's a lot of dogs barking outside.
Thank you for that additional bit of info.
Oh,
So
no, it's
also
Linda.
rewinding to the Gormker stuff. God, I can't believe I forgot about Celestial, and I can't believe I forgot about Frozen. They're both lesbians. I don't play a single straight doctor. That's the way it should be.
I was going to say, do you want
playing
to?
a homophobic doctor?
What?
I mean, I don't want to, but I wouldn't mind playing one that kind of discovers their fruity.
Yeah.
But yeah, no. So obviously, shout out to Celestial and Frozen. Also, Fia's a character I'm writing. They're gay.
There we go.
Our sex tape would be.
Grief.
Is that being kept in?
Reddit, run from it. We always come back to it.
Lord, the George and James sex tape is inevitable.
Law, you are the definition of the I'm back in the fucking building.
I am. I'm always back in the building again.
Law, I'm so glad you're my friend, and I thank you so much for putting up with me. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you kindly. I don't put up with you, but thank you.
Okay, Law, do you have any plans for LGBT characters in your stuff, or the stuff you're somewhat working on?
Yeah, I do. Again, I think I'm relatively quite new to the kind of fan scene. I've only really been a year, maybe, a bit less. So I haven't really got much kind of written work to kind of show for it. I think the most I have is a single scene in Running Up That Hill, and I think that's about where I'm at currently. But I have all sorts of stuff I want to create and put out there. I have a lot of ideas. And, oh god, it's but I'm working on the main thing I'm working on is Inheritance. That's kind of my biggest solo project, and I won't say much about it because we've all heard from everyone all about their series, which are already out. I'll keep working on it for however many decades it takes to get even 5 minutes of it made. But I'll
and it will be one of the
but-
best 5 minutes of content ever produced.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I detest using the word content on something I've made, but I appreciate the sentiment.
I'm sorry.
For listeners
you have to-
unaware, Law has an aversion to words beginning with C.
It is canon,
Clom.
content, Columbia, whatever it is.
What did Columbia do to you? Like I said,
Columbia did nothing.
I said Clom, and also I just hear Columbia, and I'm like, what is the backstory here?
The same place, innit?
Like,
Peter Kay just in Columbia occasionally.
oh,
Ay,
goodness.
Estelante.
God, this is such an off the rails podcast. Oh
Welcome,
goodness.
welcome to this. I pity for you, literally trying to edit like into a
To
little.
be honest, so far, aside from like these little bits where we kind of stop to breathe for a second, there's not actually too much to edit. Yeah, and sometimes I ignore previous me and go, no, this could probably stay in the podcast. I'm keeping it in. Yeah, fuck you, past me. I'm the editor now. Okay, right.
Okay.
Going back to the actual fucking podcast. How do you approach playing LGBTQA plus roles, especially when your own identity doesn't necessarily align with it?
I've not had this happen a lot. I think the last character I was cast as that was queer was a gay auton, and that was only because I literally improvised that at the end. But from the few times I have been cast in roles like that, I find just don't make it a stereotype.
Yeah, I think it comes to the sort of the question of heterosexual actors playing queer roles. How do we feel about that? And especially in the kind of the fan audio medium, you know, it is quite a complex question. And I think it's about, you know, I mean, I will say this, going kind of sort of going with Lone Soldier. I had the wonderful Jack Reeves playing Bram Stoker, and Bram Stoker and the Queer Doctor are very friendly, to put it lightly. And I don't think he read the script, knowing what was going to happen. Because spoilers, there is a little bit of a hanky panky scene. Yes, I know, I know. I
I'm too
think
young for this.
you're too
George, cover your ears.
George. No, I'm not even gonna say. I'm not even gonna say, George. No, just no. Um, but it's about if you're not that sexuality or that gender, are you comfortable playing it? Do your research. And to be honest, and again, it comes to it. If you're looking for a trans character, cast a trans person or cast a non-binary person.
Can
Because that's fair.
can
That's
I ask a question that kind of goes on what you said, because this is something I like to actually get people's opinions on. Because I think we've all somewhat had this discussion before. Russell T Davis once brought up that he doesn't think. I haven't seen this quote in ages, so but I remember once reading a thing where apparently Russell Davis had turned around and said how he didn't believe that straight actors could play queer roles. I don't agree with that. I do agree with, I think if you're casting for a trans character or a non-binary character, it's good to get, a non-binary actor or a trans actor in the role. But how I want to know from this perspective, if you're playing a character who say starts off and they believe they're cis, so you cast, say, like a cis actor to play them, and later down the line their character realizes they're trans. I've What's your opinion on that? Do you think they should eventually look into recasting, or do you think they should keep? Because I've seen this debate, and I'd be very online before, and I just wanted to get everyone's opinion here, because I think, yeah.
A bit of a question for this hypothetical. When casting, do you know that they're having this? Do you know that they're
No.
going to have this arc beforehand, or
No,
realizing
I've seen some soaps, because obviously I wear EastEnders is film very close to me and stuff like that, so I've seen storylines before where they have a character who will come out, like they'll be there and they'll be cis completely, and then maybe like 5 years later they suddenly think, oh, this would be a good plot line we could do, and then that will happen. So it wasn't the
Okay.
original intention. That's what I mean. I think, yeah.
I know Emmerdale did that once, and I think when they brought a character back, revealing them to be trans, they'd actually recast the role with a trans man.
Nice.
I think Yeah, it
I think
really does depend. I think I think it really does depend on. Again, it's about plan, especially when you're doing a fan series. I think sometimes you do have to plan very much from point A to the very end, or at least but have that room to grow. And I
Yeah.
think if you're going to do that, personally, I feel like you need to sort of prepare for, if we are going to do this, we need to have like at least someone that has been through that experience, and at least have them on board. I think maybe I'm not too sure.
yeah, I kind of think it's very important, especially I know when I go to kind of cast accurately, because of course, thing you're playing people who aren't actually you. But I think
Yeah.
when it comes to roles and groups which aren't represented much, I think it's very important to do that. Like the amount of trans characters on TV right now, there's not an insane amount. And roles trans people get are like there's less of them. So I think it's very important that when there are trans roles out there to cast trans people, because it's already such it's more of a problem with the industry kind of outside of Doctor Who.
Yeah.
But of course it does impact.
Because I know we're seeing it a lot more now, like in Doctor Who, like trans characters are being played by trans actors. I agree with what James said though. It's a bit more difficult in the well, it is and it is. I think now because of how like we were talking about at the very start, how open people feel with Doctor Who, we do have a lot of LGBT like people in the community who are into the fan content and into being into it. So it is in some ways it's easier now to make sure you cast accurately, but I do think as well with the fan sphere, we're not we're not the BBC. We don't have these big pools of actors that we can easily contact, and it is sometimes difficult. But I've at least always found when I've cast, I've tried to always do it accurately because I feel if I can't get someone who is trans to play a trans character, it's why I said I don't know if I'd ever feel. I'm worried it's going to be clipped out of context, but I'm get worried that I don't think I'd feel comfortable playing a trans character, not because there's anything wrong, like you said, but it's because I'm not. I've not. I don't want someone who would you know who is trans who'd be much better suited for the role. I'd rather they play it than me, for
Absolutely.
Mhm.
example.
Same.
Yeah,
I
no,
I
I
think
do
yeah,
agree.
I agree. I think with it, I think if I was going to play a trans character, I would first ask that person, have you actually thought
Yeah,
about actually casting a trans actor? And I would give my recommendations. I would, and I think also what we all have to discuss, and it comes to kind of the writing process and everything like that. And especially when you're starting out, especially in the fan doctor community, um, and again, even that, I mean, I'm gonna be very honest. I will have to say, sometimes the fan doctor community can be extremely homophobic, transphobic,
Mm.
biphobic. Yeah,
you've had some. I remember you
Yeah.
told me you've had some backlash before,
I've had a lot of
James.
backlash with queer. I will happily say. I mean, I will happily say that. I mean, not happily say, but like, I'm very much the case of, I've had a lot of comments. Why is the Doctor queer? Why are we doing this storyline? Why are you doing this? Why? It's that's kind of the harshness and the reality. And it's kind of, if you're going to do those storylines, and if you are going to come up with those storylines, and if you are going to do those types of LGBT characters, you are going to have to prepare for people, especially when you're starting out. Prepare for the backlash, because there's a couple of people that were big in this community,
Yeah,
and they're now not, because they've been cancelled. And truth be told, they have, it is a very much a case of, we you need to stand by what you're doing, and also you need to kind of like prepare for the backlash. I mean, when I was coming up with Queer Season 1, I knew I was going to get a lot of, the Doctor's not gay, or the Doctor's not this, why are you doing this, why is this Doctor like being this and that? And I'm like, because they can, and because it's my fan
yeah.
series. and you know, a lot of people, you get a lot of backlash.
People forget it's a fan series. They don't have to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have to watch it. They don't have to listen to it. They can easily go and find another doctor that maybe relates to them, you know. And
It's why I'm very much with the stance of I like getting I like the fact now because it took me years to get to the point where now I have people basically, everyone in this chat, a lot of people who aren't in this chat right now who I feel I can work with, because when you start off doing fan stuff, at most you might have your mate who might be willing to do the odd couple of lines for you, but you can tell they're very embarrassed doing it. That we've all started somewhere, so I get it can be difficult if you're passionate about telling these stories, but maybe you just don't have the people willing to do it. It can be hard, but I think if you're in a position where you can get these the people who, if you can get a trans person playing a trans character, and I think you should, because I think it's really important, because like I said, I've played gay characters before, and it is very much a case of you just don't make him a stereotype,
no, you
because
don't.
they're a normal person, that they're gay, that doesn't define their
No.
character.
And also read the script.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fan people, I'm gonna call them out, do not read the script and do not know what kind of character they're letting them in for. They're just like, oh, I'm just doing this little fan thing, yada 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 yada. And I'm like, no, read the script, know what you're
Yeah.
going for, because unfortunately Jack Reese didn't know it was going to have a little bit of a hanky panky scene. But he completely joked about it, and again, it was, he was very accepting of it, and he was, very,
Do
very delicate with it,
but
actually.
so I want to ask, and as someone who is, I know we've spent a lot of this going, oh, my sexuality is guy drag, during that, but as someone who, let's be honest, will probably refer to himself as straight, as someone who's played multiple gay characters before, do you guys see any issue with that, as long as
Oh,
it's done well?
As long as it's done well, I think it's the case of, for me, it's about, do your research and
Yeah.
speak to someone and just know you're an actor. It's very lazy for them to just think of a stereotype. You know, think about what that character is, and again, it's about doing the research. That's a part about being a voice actor. You do your research. Not every character is the same. You can't do the same voice over and over
I,
again.
I, I think as well, and this is just an experience I've had, because I try and, when I'm doing something, I try and make people feel as comfortable as they are, like they can be. And if I've had, like, I have gone to people before and said, are you comfortable playing characters that are, I remember, like, me and Law had this conversation a few weeks ago. Do you remember, Law? I messaged you when we were talking about acting stuff, and I said, just out of curiosity, do you have a preference for playing femme presenting roles, or would you play mass presenting roles as well, and stuff? And we had a very deep conversation about that.
I do
And
remember.
I think it's important to make sure people are comfortable in that as well, because the last thing I'd want to do is say, then, because you had that conversation, Law, and then I'm like, okay, I'm aware that's how you feel. Next minute I then go, cool, play this, a role that you've clearly expressed to me you would not be comfortable playing.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's when the showrunner of the fan productions needs to really understand their cast and really kind of like, right, what are the limitations? And again, I've seen a lot of I've seen a lot of fan productions really try to be the next RTD, or try to be the next Moffat, or they try and basically do like what what you do in a television. Like, no, do you? And that was kind of the
Yeah.
mentality I had with Queer, is that I'm going to do this how I'm going to do this, and if people don't like it, tough. And
Yeah.
that's what you have to do. That's what you have to do as a showrunner, is this is my stamp on a fan. And again, it's a fan audio series.
I know how important our fan stuff is to all of us, but I sometimes I'm a fanboy of the Man at Desk stuff. I mean, obviously, before me and Jed were friends, I was like a massive fanboy of Jed, and still am. But it's very much like, so I get getting really attached to a fan series, but I sometimes get a bit annoyed when people act like we are BBC's Doctor Who, and what we are doing is just as, like, yes, to us it's just as important. But when people are coming, it's like, oh, you're ruining it for everyone. I'm like, you can literally just go click on another video.
Yeah,
You
exactly.
don't.
You know,
Exactly.
don't spill the hate, because that's what I think our community is our biggest downfall, is that that negativity gets focused on too much, the negative comments,
And
regardless of what it is, you know, and it's hate. It's just
but,
pure hate, and
but
it's just someone trying to get their 15 minutes to
it's
get
the
across.
facts. We can be open now
Yeah.
with like, it's like Star, when you messaged me and asked me about, fairy tale sexuality, because we did that big post with all the different doctors and their pronouns of sexuality.
Yeah.
And I found that really interesting, like, because I didn't know until then that Duffel was, asexual and stuff like that. And I think it's kind of great not having the restraints of a television network breathing down us, because I sometimes feel if you didn't have, TV network scrolling down, I sometimes wonder what restrictions does Russell T Davies still have put on him. I sometimes wonder, I think, but we don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think people need to accept, in the fan sphere, then we're definitely not going to put restrictions on ourselves. And I love the fact that I'm in a timeline, with these doctors of different sexualities and genders, and these companions as well are the same. And I like the fact I'm in this community, because I won't, obviously, don't worry, I'm not going to say anything. But it's like when you've told me some of your ideas for Inheritance, when Iris has told me some of her ideas for, different like Gomoko projects, or when we were discussing Orion, and just, because obviously I've been in like the Queer Doctor series, so James has told me some stuff as well, and it's coming up, and it's just been really great to have this community that can just unapologetically be themselves. And I think basically James is right. Do the research, and you can just make these really compelling stories.
Yeah, no, I do think a nice perk of, I don't know, getting to kind of do fan stuff in the way it differs from the show is, like you're saying, like the restrictions and all that kinds of stuff, and that is that we're friends doing it. Like, we're not. There's no. I don't know. There's no like official like bosses or things or anything like that, or like things we have to follow specifically. We're friends, and it's a welcoming and a community which is quite, I don't know, friendly to queer people, which I really appreciate. But it is just getting to do it with friends and lovely other and meeting other kind of queer creatives, not just queer creatives, but just kind of creatives in general. But getting to meet other people who are just as passionate about this kinds of stuff as you, and getting to make stuff together, which I think is really quite nice. Honestly, it's something I really appreciate.
A lot of what we said about how we approach LGBTQA roles also kind of applies to the next question of like, do your research, because the next question was, what's important when it comes to writing these characters? And again, I find that researching is obviously the most important. Like, as kind of Star Doctor spoiler exclusive here, for the Christmas one, Star Doctor's going to get some. But I'm trying to be as very delicate as I can about writing that kind of lesbian romance I'm going to be putting in, and I'm doing all the research I can, and I've got a few people I'm talking to just to make sure it is flowing correctly. I find that it's very important to make sure you have those people when writing, not just as performing. I feel that's a significant thing for both aspects. In fact, for all aspects of making this.
I think also if you get criticism on this while you're writing it, don't take it as criticism for the sake of being negative. It sometimes is an educational thing, because I've come to multiple. I know I've come to you a few times, Star, and said, "Hey, I've written this. This be worded better because this be said better." And you've been really open about that. So I think I think if you're looking to do these stories or write these characters, understand sometimes being educated, sometimes being told you've done something wrong,
Yeah.
and how to better.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, and again, it's just asking, and it's asking, is this okay? Especially with Striker Pose for Queer Doctor, especially writing Gigi. I spoke to Billy, who plays Gigi and is a trans actress herself, and said to her, "This is the script. Is this okay? I don't want it to be stereotypical. I don't want it to be like preaching to the choir as such. I want it to be a natural trans character that, yes, has flaws, but is ultimately a good person." And she said, "Yes, that's fine. Maybe you could add a little bit here." And again, it's uh, we. I think we're starting to become, just in general, we don't like when people critique us, whether it be negative or in a positive way, you know. And I think it's about understanding
Yeah.
that sometimes these critiques, I always like to do like a critique as like a little bun. Like you start off with a positive, then you end with the ones that you could do the improvements and stuff like that, and things that you don't like, and then but end it up in the positive. And I think that's the best way to critique fan stuff. Um, and again, it's also it's a fan thing. It's subjective. You know, sometimes you might not understand sometimes people might just not enjoy it, and and accept that.
Anyone else for the what's important when it comes to writing these characters?
I think it's all been
It's all
covered
been
quite
pretty
well.
said. Yeah.
Well, good God, we've blabbed for quite some time. I'm actually quite impressed and horrified at how long this is going to be. So we'll move on to the Beyond Doctor Who, and then we'll go to the audience section and the Cannon Buster bit. So
I forgot there was
Beyond,
an audience section.
yeah, there's at least 4 things in the audience. Well, 5 actually, because Jack has to send me a thing. Beyond Doctor Who stuff, this is kind of more just general LGBTQ stuff, because obviously this is a fairly big platform I've hijacked to do this special. We should use it to help educate people. So the first one we've talked a bit about earlier when we're talking about trans characters, but is it okay to ask about pronouns, and how should people approach that?
Yes, it's okay. And with respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a nice. It's kind of the simple answer. It's that easy a question where it's just a case of, yeah, you can ask, just be respectful.
Yeah, I think it's just being kind, and it's just being the case of, I don't want, you very much is kind of the British way of, "Oh, I'm really sorry to ask this," but it's that kind of. But again, it's for me, how people should approach this is that they should just be open, and they should understand that not everyone fits in that particular box, and it's about the experience and about experiencing different types of, how do you ask pronouns, or many people don't maybe want to have that kind of conversation, or maybe start using more sort of they thems, in conversations, because you may not know.
That's become my safety until someone either says or I get a chance to ask them what their pronouns are. Because I get annoyed when people say, "Oh, it's so silly, you have to ask them." I went, "No, it's basic courtesy. It's just because me and Star have had a lot of conversations regarding this. I have never hit the fact. I try and be a good ally. I really want to be a good ally. So I am asking as many questions. You've sent me links or groups to help me find out more. The thing is, I think there's, at least from my perspective from what I've noticed, a lot of people act like, oh, you can't ask these people what their pronouns are, they get snappy with you. I'm like, that's because half the time they're asking you doing it in a really dickhead way. If you just want to find out, I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything wrong. If you ask them for respect, it's like I know I've asked a few people here before, hey, do you have a like preference or what pronouns would you prefer I use around you and stuff like that? Because it's just common courtesy. It's really not that hard to ask.
I don't have many things to add on to this, but other than, and personally, I find it disheartening for them not to ask and then get it wrong, than just for them to ask, because there's been many times where I'll have someone, because I go by they she pronouns, but I still at this moment look very much male presenting. And I'll have people will refer to me using he him pronouns, and I'll just sit here like you could have asked.
I think I go by the thing of I know there's a lot I don't know, and I'm almost kind of glad there is a lot I don't know because it means I can keep learning. I want to keep learning, and I want to know ways to be a better ally. And a lot of it is just accepting the fact that I feel a lot of people need to learn is that, regards to someone's trans, gay, asexual, doesn't matter. As long as they're still people, you can go up and you can ask them things. I've had one experience where someone I knew very only changed their pronouns and did not tell anybody, and then were confused why people didn't understand they had changed their pronouns. It was only after we had a discussion and said, no, if we knew, we'd all, but you've told us these were your pronouns and you've changed without telling us. That was like the only difficult situation I've been in. A lot of people are very open if you just politely ask them.
That kind of leads me on to another note of what can allies do more of to support the LGBTQ?
Yes, please tell me.
Which, again, I find is the big one we keep repeating. Just be respectful. Be kind is the biggest one, I find.
And as much as it's nice to be a keyboard warrior, especially when it comes to LGBT stuff on Twitter or any sort of social media, go to Pride's as not as just a celebration, but as a protest. Donate your time to these charities. I, for me, I don't like it when allies they basically say it all openly and publicly, and behind the scenes they don't, because a lot of people, a lot of fake allies, they do that.
They'll say it for appearance, but then given an opportunity where speaking up would actually help, they're too scared about the
They're too
backlash
scared.
they receive.
They're too scared, and I think also it leans on a certain franchise, shall we say, and it's about, yes, you can preach we shouldn't buy certain merch or a certain game or stuff like that, but you know what's the best thing to do? Go and support a charity. Support a charity. Go and donate your time instead of just being a keyboard warrior. And yes, that in itself can be good, but it's not helping. It's not helping anyone. Not helping. Have the time.
What are some good charities, if you don't mind me asking? Because I've done some research. Yeah.
Mermaids is a very good charity. I find the Kite Trust.
Stonewall.
Yeah, Stonewall is fantastic. And just even like your local like local queer charities. Go and support them. Because they need it. Because surely because honey, the government ain't giving them money or doing anything.
Yeah, a lot of when you go to Pride, they will give you the kind of guide
Yeah.
list to what kind of charities you should go for.
Because
Um,
I've looked up like some charities, but I found with a lot of time with Google results, it might be giving me say the same free. So that's why I wanted to know if there was any more I could be aware of.
I've donated a couple to Ollie's, but the merch from the Next Generation Project, which is an American-based charity. They do a lot, but their main thing is scholarships for trans people of color. Although I'm having a quick look up now, and they haven't posted anything on their socials in over a year, so maybe they're not around anymore.
well, now we kind of got that one covered. There's two more questions left. The first one is kind of a big one. Any common misconceptions we as queer people can use this platform to help clear up? Go nuts, really. This is kind of an open.
I'm gonna take a step back for this one, but I will say the biggest one I've noticed is that everyone is saying, "Oh, queer people get easily offended." No, they don't. If you're being a dick, there's a big difference between friends having a joke and being a dick. No,
Yeah.
no. Right, I'm gonna step back for this one.
I'm
Thank
gonna have to say the obvious one of trans women. We just want to go pee. We're not going to attack anyone. We're just going to go into the cubicle, do what we need to, come out, wash our hands, leave.
Yeah.
This ridiculous idea that we're going to go in and batter everyone is ridiculous.
And also kind of sort of adding to that fact, if you literally look at the ratio of heterosexual men and women who, you know, break boundaries and stuff like that. I don't want to say the actual words just in case it triggers people. And the amount of queer people, you know, it's a huge difference. It's the majority of those types of people are heterosexual men and women, and they don't somehow. We've got this narrative that a trans person is using a toilet, and in this day and age, the toilets are cubicle, so you're not seeing them physically, doing their having a pee pee or a poopsie or
Yeah. The same rule kind of applies for like when people talk about changing rooms, because every changing room I've been to, specifically the women's ones mostly, it's always been a case of it's individual cubicles. Everyone has their privacy. Like my local swimming pool slash ice rink, the changing rooms there are just their own cubicles that you can lock from the inside. I,
Yeah.
it really baffles me that there's this whole kind of thing where people are like, "Oh, because you've got this in your pants, you're a threat to everyone." I'm like, no, we're not. We're just going to go in here and do what we need to and go out. That's it. We are not going to bother with anyone.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
And like, I'm saying this as like someone who I've not had it majorly happen, but there has been the odd time where I've had to go into the toilets like Asda or something, and then most cases it's just some old woman just kind of giving me a dodgy look. But I've had the occasional woman shout at me. I even had one bring the security guard over, and the security guard kind of just laughed at her and went on his way, which I was very appreciative. But it was still very kind of, oh God, people would do this. And I'm also fortunate in my area where this doesn't happen too much. But when it comes to traveling, like when I go down to Edinburgh for a capital sci-fi and stuff, or if I just want to go visit there, I always have this kind of fear that something's going to happen. Like even there was this time where we were, I think might have been our honeymoon. Me and Cass were in Edinburgh, and we were walking around the Royal Mile, went into Starbucks because I was in the toilet, and I got kind of trapped in a cubicle because I could hear someone yelling about trans people, and it was terrifying because I couldn't move or anything, because if I moved, I knew I was in danger, and I That's another reason I fear about coming to places like London. But I would love to visit Gydra again. I would like to visit Law. I would like to go to MCM. I'd like to visit James and stuff.
Would you mind if I just ask? Are there ways then? So like, just say, however, would just say like you're with me in London. Are there any ways I can help you feel safer?
Honestly, I think that's you just being there, knowing that you would have my back would kind of be helpful. But when it comes to it, a lot of the cases, it's not like when I'm going to the toilet, it's not like something you can kind of step in, because
Yeah,
obviously you are a man, you can't come in because that will inevitably make it worse.
yeah,
I think the best thing you can do is just what I've thought about doing is doing a sort of tech system. Like if I were down with you and I need the toilet or something, I'd have my phone with me, and if something kicked off, I just send you a certain thing, and you'd know to like call me to like get me out of there and stuff.
yeah.
Because a lot of the time I notice that when these people are yelling at you, something they'll do is if your phone starts ringing and they know someone else is present, if they know someone else is present, they'll kind of back down a bit. Not completely, but they'd be like, oh shit, there's going to be more people against me. I need to set that. Isn't always the case. Sometimes they just start going louder. But I find that would be a kind of safe measure. Just make sure you've kind of got that person
Okay.
who was back.
Yeah. Okay.
Especially as someone who has grown up in the country, and it is not, and I can tell you this right now, I definitely have been in very unsafe situations, because I had to walk by myself in the middle of the night, and I have to literally really think about my safety. And there's been a lot of times where me and my boyfriend I've literally said to him, please don't hold my hand, I don't feel safe, because someone is looking at us in a weird way, and it shouldn't be that way. It should never be that way, and it shouldn't be that way for trans people at all. I get very just hurt and upset that
It doesn't help that we have a government that pushes the idea that, if you're trans or if you're not, basically, if you're not cis and straight, as much as they're like, oh no, we're so accepting. No, if you're not cis and straight, you're different, you're weird, you're this, and we can look down upon you. I don't think it's good that we have a government that pushes that,
yeah, no, absolutely.
and it's not helping because it feels like we've gone from a point where at least how I've noticed over the past, say, maybe 10 years, it's gone from people becoming very accepting to now, well, it's still very, there's, I still think there's a lot of places are very accepting. It's now almost becoming back how it was. It's almost like, yeah, we need to accept the LGBT next more. Oh, they're everywhere these days, kind of thing. I see a lot of that sentiment online, and I sometimes think I don't get why we have these changes, but then we have big, powerful political figureheads saying stuff like this. It doesn't help, and I don't think they understand how unsafe they're making it for people.
Yeah.
And I think this is very much the case of, I would like to say to people who definitely the heterosexuals and the cisgendered people, spend a day in our shoes and experience what we've experienced, both both throughout our lives, and you will definitely change your tune, or just listen to us and understand that, especially when it comes to the government, they're making it out to be villains when they're the ones who have done rubbish in this to
I
our country. You know
I
what I mean?
think, and I remember you said this to me, Star, when we first started talking, and this has stuck with me ever since you said this. It was when you turned to me and you just said, not a single trans person wants to be trans. They don't want to have to go through, you know, all the shit and judgment stuff that they're going through. And when you told that to me, I just that has stuck with me, and it's why I get really annoyed when you have the like. I can't speak so much for what it's like in America, obviously. The Iris will know better than I will there, but it's when it's But she's happy like, oh, we're not going to let them bully us into calling them by their pronouns. I'm like, why?
Yeah.
I'm like, by your own logic, you identify as our prime minister. By your own logic, I don't need to acknowledge you as that then.
I didn't expect it to get this heavy, but like, yeah.
I think it's good if it gets this heavy. I think people.
No, this is very important. This is where it gets kind of real, and this is what's going to help people understand the most, hearing these kind of experiences. Because obviously I've talked about like generally like toilets and changing rooms and stuff, but like the worst transphobic attack that's happened to me. Well, there's two. There was one where it was not even that late at night. I was just walking back home from my mum's, and I got chased out of the park because they clocked I was trans. Then there was another incident. There was a good gap. I was kind of terrified after the chasing, and it kind of stopped, and I was like, okay, maybe it was just one off. And then more recently, I think it was the night I actually bought your Idrisil necklace, Gadra. I bought it.
I think I remember. I think you asked me to come on call with you afterwards.
Yeah, no. I bought the Idrisil necklace for you, and I went off to Tesco's to get something to eat. 'Cause, peckish. People have seen the size of me. Of course, I was peckish. And then I sat down, and it just happened again. I didn't get quite chased, but it was like you could tell they were trying to set me to run, but I needed to wait because Cass was on his way. And then obviously there's a more recent one, which people on the Time Siren server, which by the way, if anyone wants to join, DM me. As I said in Time Siren server, there was one recently where me and Cass just went for lunch. We were just sitting in Spoons, and these blokes came over to us and kind of made us really uncomfortable, and you could tell what they were trying to do. How one of them I briefly heard mention as we were leaving. We're hoping I was going to the toilet so they could check. I didn't say that bit in the server, but I will happily say this here, because if we're being open, then we're being open. I don't even think I've told Cass that I heard that yet, because I was kind of hoping he had, but I didn't want to bring it up because he was quite upset at the time as well.
It's why I don't get the argument when people say, oh, these LGBT people, they're always up in our face. I'm like, no, you're getting up in their face. They just want to fucking live their life.
We just want to just be respected, and we just want
I-
it to be the case of that this is our space, and we want to live our lives. We want to do what we want to do in a safe environment, and we do not want it to go back to the dark ages, because
I'm quite lucky that because of the amount of queer and trans people in my life, that I have a dad who is very open with the fact he doesn't understand, but he's very open with the fact that as well, though, he will accept anyone for who they are, basically, as long as you're not a twat.
Yeah.
And I respect that a lot, because when people hear my dad was born in the 50s, they're like, oh god. I'm like, no, he's genuinely one of the most tolerant people as well. And it was the same. It was the same for my mum. She was very much like, she didn't understand. But obviously, I have gay relatives, and and so that, and very accepting. And I think a lot of people just need to understand that these are just people. They're not people to gawk at and stuff. It's and I'm trying not to white knight here. I am desperately trying not to white knight.
You're not, don't worry.
Good,
You're
but
just
no.
saying.
No, but I'll be honest, because I have got into arguments with someone who literally was playing it off, oh, the trans thing isn't too big. And I said, I have friends who have gone through all this shit. Don't you dare try and play it down to me. But I just want to say now, I am proud of every single one of you. And honestly, if I, think none of you should have to go through this shit. You should just be able to be who you want to be. You shouldn't have to deal with a government who vilifies you just for trying to exist. And this goes out to anyone listening. just know I am proud of you. And if anyone sees me at a convention and anything like that, you guys are all safe with me. I don't care what color you are, what sexuality, what your pronouns are. Just basically, if you're a nice person, I'll be nice to you, and I won't tolerate anyone getting crap for just being who they want to be. And as much as I hear the thing, oh, people allow different opinions, I'm like, there's having a different opinion, and then there's outright causing harm to others. And I don't think they're the same thing.
I gotta say, you put a bit of fairy tale onto that.
It's my default. It's my default.
Final question, and then we move on to the little bits that Jack expects me to do. A favorite queer icon. This can be celebrity, fictional character, anything. Just this is your time to gush about your favorite LGBT icon, which for me is going to be Dreamer from DC, because trans superhero, fuck yes.
See, so are these fictional characters or are they
Fictional
anyone.
celebrity, literally anyone. Doesn't even have to be Doctor Who. You can just go nuts with this one. This is just a nice moment for you to gush about.
Just a sweet moment, because he's obviously I kicked him out the room so we could record. My dad once told me one of his favorite queer icons was kind of James. He's never met James, but no, he's met you briefly. But literally, I remember once, I think you went to DragCon. I was looking at the photos, and he just looked over my shoulder and went, "Who's that?" And, "Oh, that's my friend James." And my dad's like, "Oh, is James gay?" And I went, "Yeah." And my dad just stared for a moment. I was like, "I don't know what's going on here." And he just goes, "You know what? I'm really proud of him. He's just being himself." And I'm thinking, this got really wholesome, but okay. So
a long time.
little
You are the person that I am here. You see, it's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort and a lot of self-reflection and a lot of building confidence. I would say definitely almost 12 years ago, I would have not been who I am today. Trust me.
So before we come back and I say mine, I just wanted to throw my dad's one in there as well, because my dad just randomly started gushing about James once, and it was so wholesome.
It was really cute. And I was just like, "Aw." But yeah. Do you know what? I'm gonna say the one and only one of my favorite queer icons, Paul O'Grady, aka Lily Savage. Just just a powerful queer man who was generous to anyone and was just a normal working class person and was just campus Christmas and just I'm again just wonderful humor, witty humor that I could understand. Yeah, I'm gonna say Paul O'Grady for me.
Mine might change over time, but this is the one that I have in my head right now. Denise from Twin Peaks. Might have been played by a cis man. It was the 90s. It was like not trying to like excuse that, but how it's done in how that trans character was done in the show was specifically made me really like her a lot, because like she just shows up and everyone's like, "Oh yeah, you're a woman now, okay." And like even people that didn't really know that she was trans before and just automatically clocks woman, and just I don't know, just love that character to death.
Peter?
Oh, it's all there, and I'm so tired.
It's all right. We'll speed run. We'll wrap it up soon.
I've been up since 6. Off the
PM?
top of my, sorry, I'm sure. I honestly think if you hadn't asked me the question, I'd probably have thought of like 5 people.
You could just say Ada.
Yeah, Ada's definitely one. You know, they're absolutely fantastic. Gushed about them earlier. I love Ziran Zhao, who's the non-binary author of Iron Widow and Zachary Quinn book series. A lot of friends of mine, like Max Brought and other local queer artists who I've worked with or lived with or whatever. And just to throw another one in, because I mentioned the charity, the Next Generation Project, the founder, who's just called Sis. I've seen some of this. Obviously, they founded that charity, and I've seen like other stuff they've done online, and it's all really cool.
Law?
Oh goodness me. I don't know why, but I'm pulling an absolute blank, and I have no idea why.
Just name a queer person.
I name a woman. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I can't really. I don't know why I can't. We're gonna finish recording. I'm gonna go. Of course. Blankety blank. Of course, I should go with them. And I don't know why I'm not right now. I'm so
famous queer show. Blankety blank.
Law, you could
You
just
know,
say your
not the
favorite.
show.
Law, you could just say your favorite queer person was the friends we made along the way.
That's in this whole thing when a queer person, really, when you take a step back and look at it from afar. I really don't know. I could say, I don't know. I've goodness, I don't really know if I can name like a queer. I don't know, something that's coming to mind, and that's just because I was talking about it earlier and how it impacted me in my life. But can I just say like JoJo as a whole? Am I allowed to?
Yeah,
do that?
you're allowed to say it.
Because
Honestly,
okay, because
IRGC show's your favorite queer person?
not just a
because
TV show, the manga.
To be fair, it
I-
says the question was queer icon, and an icon could be a TV show.
I don't know. I really enjoy that series just for I don't know, from other things outside of being queer. I enjoy its healthier portrayals of masculinity at points, but like specifically the and it's kind of, I don't know. I enjoyed how it handles at ugh, I enjoy in certain parts how it handles female characters, and I think it only kind of gets better later. But I don't know, I've really enjoyed especially the later parts of the series.
Like Doctor Who, you can see how it's developed, like in its representation throughout the decades it's been published.
Yeah. What was I saying? But yeah, I've enjoyed, especially kind of watching it over time. But I've really enjoyed its portrayals of characters and just, I don't know, the dynamics between people and I don't know. There's a very androgynous characters and it's portrayed through the fashion and that dynamics with people and I don't know. I've just really enjoyed that, and I've enjoyed all sorts of stuff. I know, the most recent part has had a trans JoJo, which I've really appreciate.
Yeah,
and I don't know, things that I think that series though. I don't know if it's very odd to call it like a queer series. It's very, I don't know, I guess queer coded or something like that. Has a fan base that's very queer, but I've appreciated that, I think, and everything it's kind of done for me. I don't know, seeing people so freely and confidently being themselves, I think is really quite wonderful, because I appreciate that pride and that confidence and that I don't know, that just authenticity, I really appreciate that, and I appreciate watching groups of people I don't know, come together and be happily themselves. I don't know. I'm really debating this answer in my head as I'm saying it. I'm just like, is this any good? What are you
I
saying,
think it's
Lord?
good.
I know this is staying in the
Oh.
edit.
Okay, all right, here I go. But yeah, I don't know. I'd say that. I really enjoy that as a series, and I don't know, I really appreciate it. Yeah.
George, did you say your one?
No, I said my dad's one.
Okay. Well,
I mean, the obvious thing for me is the Doctor, as we were talking about. The Doctor is a queer icon. Um, here's the thing. I'm like everyone else. In terms of like celebrities, my mind goes blank. I say David Tennant in terms of just how much of an amazing ally he is, and I aspire to be as good as him in that. I know this sounds weird. Loose from the Out from the Owl House.
Great
Yes.
pull. Great pull.
Like genuinely, I adore like Losing Amity. I just adore. I was gonna say also Yang and Blake from Ruby, but because I think especially that goes on, that's pretty good. But genuinely, like I said, either the Doctor or Loose from the Owl House, because when I binged watched that just meant a lot, seeing just how well it was handled, especially when you find out the behind the scenes stuff they went through just to get a lot of that stuff done. I think it's really good rep, and the way the fandom has latched onto that, and rightfully so. It's brilliant to see. It's very much a you can be who you want to be, and don't be afraid to love who you love. And obviously, I'm going to agree with Law when it comes to JoJo's as well. Like genuinely, and it's quite nice having a protagonist who knows when, because in most shonen anime it's look at me, I'm the strongest like guy around, look at my muscles. And then you have JoJo's where you know the main hero is wearing pink with curls in their hair and blue butterflies all over their outfit, and yet they will absolutely kick your ass. You are never reaching the truth. It's great, and I like the fact we're getting more series like this. Because I like Our House and Amphibia as well, stuff like that. Just there's a nice push, and I think that's quite iconic in itself, and that's been sticking out to me a lot, especially when I go to conventions and I see people latching onto this, finally finding characters who they can relate on. And it's why I need to bring this up just very, very quickly. Is why I have a certain franchise with a certain franchise who we're never going to know who wrote this franchise. Is the fact that I feel sorry for that fandom who initially found that as a place of acceptance and have kind of had all this thrown into them. But I do like the fact we're seeing a lot of that fandom taking it back, being like, no, we don't care what so and so has said. We're making this a place where people can feel loved. And I kind of find that iconic. I find that side of the fandom really iconic in the sense of they are taking back and making it a safe space, no matter what the person who created it is saying. I think that's a really beautiful thing because it does show. And again, it's why I said, I cannot get over how strong I find the community. It's because no matter how much the LGBT community is getting pushed down, they're not going anywhere, and thank Christ for that. You can yell back and say, you're wrong, and at the end of the day, you just have everyone shout back, go, no, we're not, we're here, deal with it. And I think that's the way to be. And yeah.
very beautifully put, which also leads us on to, and I can't believe I'm about to make this reference, a different bizarre adventure. As we go.
Okay.
A different and bizarre adventure as we head to the audience section for Space-Time Telegraphs. Hello, Future Star here. So before we get to the Space-Time Telegraphs, I have to warn you. I agreed to let them do a remix of the little Space-Time Telegraph jingle. So what you're about to hear may sound a bit like a clusterfuck. Okay, so our audience questions, we've got 2 from Twitter, and then we've got 1 that Jack hasn't sent me, but there's a voice note from Cara. But our first one comes from M at Parker Sirius. There's 2 questions on here. We've kind of gone over them, but for the sake of the audience section, we'll do it again. Do you think Doctor Who is successful in its queer rep?
Most of the time.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Say mostly. I think a small gripe I have is I don't know, maybe tying the I don't know, I think with a sci-fi show there's a want to kind of tie the identity in with the sci-fi, and I think it's nice to not do that sometimes. But I think it does sound fairly good. Yeah.
Okay. The second question is, what would you say to people who think the show has, quote, gone woke, unquote?
Fuck off. Sorry.
Yeah, that.
Yeah,
Do you-
I can't put it any better.
Have you literally, sis? Have you watched the show? Like, get your receipts correct before you get a refund.
And
Sis.
to anyone tries and argues that what it was in, say, 2005 was different, I'll always point out it wasn't different. You were 7 and hadn't been conditioned by arseholes online to dislike it.
I find
Mhm.
a lot of these people are very much the the Doctor would love to travel with me. No, they wouldn't. If you're gonna be a prick about, accepting others and stuff like that, and not standing up for these issues, the Doctor would leave you at the door.
There are villains that
Yeah.
actively mock you.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
too
Even
stupid to realize.
like the Master's just looking at you like, dude, the fuck?
We specifically have a race of aliens which hate anything like different from them. Like it's not built for you. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I wish Doctor Who would unwokify itself, go back to what it was like in 1971, Claws of Axos, where the Doctor almost strangles a government politician for trying to blow up refugees.
It's-
Like we need to go back to the day when the show was just escapism and it meant nothing.
Okay. Our second response is from Monster of Nerds. I believe most of you will know as Melody, fellow JoJo nerd for the two JoJo fans that exist here.
They have the golden ratio.
Calm down. We've
Uh,
already mentioned JoJo 3 times this podcast.
Yeah, with the Wicked JoJo podcast.
Sorry, JoJo. There we go. Failed the quota.
Goodness.
Melody says, well, for questions, 1, did Doctor Who help you come out or helped you discover your identity? We kind of went over that earlier, so we'll move straight on to 2 of what do you think of queer rep in the show / audios, which we have touched on again, but we'll let this have a little room for any bits we might miss.
I feel like I said earlier.
Fabulous, darling.
I think it's great. I think if you're looking for a more mature and I think a more experimental look for queer representation in Doctor Who, definitely the audios.
Yeah, the spin-off material definitely, because
Mhm.
again, less restrictions, but
Mm.
yeah,
It's fabulous.
yeah,
Every
it's
other
great.
Big Finish box set I listen to as a queer couple in it. It's lovely.
Big Finish, we love gays.
Hell yeah!
No, it's updated now, isn't it? It's for the love of
For the love of
change.
gays.
Change.
These gays.
Okay, hello, Future Star. Back at it again. As mentioned earlier, there's a bit from Kara. I wasn't sure how to play it during the podcast, so what I've done is I've arranged this little special section where I'm going to fit it in here. I'm going to put this bit in here, let the voice note that Kara has sent play, and then another voice note from me just saying what I thought of it, and then we'll go back into the podcast. Everything is going to go very smoothly.
Hello, my name is Kara, and I briefly just want to quickly explain my experience as a queer Doctor Who fan, and how Doctor Who personally helped me along with my journey. 2017, I recently discovered I was transgender. Like all baby trans peeps, I was scared, confused, worried about all sorts of things. That was until July 16 of that year. A little show called Doctor Who helped me. I watched as the next Doctor was revealed to be none other than Jodie Whittaker, Doctor number 13. To me, it felt like the Doctor transitioned along with me. The Doctor becoming a woman, for me, is what it took for me to be honest with myself, to go on the journey I am on today. However, I was still uncomfortable in other ways. Say hello to another Doctor a few regenerations later. Ncuti Gatwa, number 15. Ncuti becoming the Doctor helped me be way more open, let me be me, and not have a single care in the world about what the world thinks of some little person like me. Watching this big beam of energy, not just from his take on the Doctor, but Ncuti himself, I knew at that moment I shouldn't be afraid to be honest about myself, honest about who I am. I should be who I want to be, not fear how people would react. I mean, hey, if the Doctor could do all that, why can't I?
Very beautifully put there from Cara. This isn't one of those one-off stories. I find that the Doctor has helped a lot of people, and when you hear stories like this and people's experiences and how the Doctors help people, I think that's really important and really special. And stories like this really matter, and this is why Doctor Who really matters for queer people, I think. But yeah, no, beautifully put, Carol. Well, okay, that's nearly at the end. Peter will finally soon be able to go to bed.
I can grab a bat if you can.
Not again. Not again, Iris.
We'll move on to the Cannon Buster. George, for this one, because H, you're a little baby, I'm going to send you a message on Snapchat, okay? I just want you to read it out.
I will put on my best voice.
This is our Cannon Buster for the episode. Be warned, we did look into the fruitiest options.
Oh,
Fitz Kreiner once had a dream in which he rubbed butts with the Eighth Doctor. When he
Oh, I remember.
queried this dream state, Doctor, he was assured it was not his subconscious telling him anything about his sexuality. That is from the story Half-Life.
There you go. So,
wait, Half-Life.
yes.
Yes.
Not the Half-Life you're expecting. But yes, no.
Fitz and the Doctor rubbing butts equals Half-Life 3 confirmed.
Oh my goodness.
Finally.
So, even though it was a dream, the Doctor has canonically rubbed butts with someone.
I see.
That's the level of Cannon Buster we're going for this week.
Honestly, I'm glad it wasn't the Stranger.
I was tempted, but I think Jack's done that one.
Oh, but yeah, Peter, by the way, thank you for now making sure I own that book.
Twice.
You went through a lot to get me that book, so
yeah,
thank you.
I still don't know where whatever happened to the first copy.
Sorry, I stole it.
Production line.
This is the point where George just like pulls it out as like it arrived the first time.
Now I have both.
With all that, then this is pretty much the ending bit where I will allow you all to have your moment to plug your socials. We'll go around in a nice little circle, going from George first.
Hi. So yeah, if you want to check me out, you can find me on YouTube at Instability Productions. What was my handle on Twitter? I keep forgetting, and I will fuse. You can find me at Doc Gydra on Twitter, and if you want to follow me on Instagram, you can either follow the Instability Productions Instagram or find me at George Gydra Cosplays. And yeah, I promise I'm friendly.
Law?
Hi, I am Stardust VFX on Instagram. I post all sorts of VFX. I do 3D modeling, 3D animation, Photoshop, video editing, video VFX it's in the name, all that kinds of stuff. Follow me on there if you feel like it. There's also Doctor Who Inheritance, which I'm also working on. If you want to check that out, it's a fun little reboot of Doctor Who. We take away all of the continuity, we just start afresh. On Twitter, I am the Lawmeister, and I also have a Stardust VFX account on there as well. That's a bit more personal, where I tweet about how I want the Sand to be the great big bad of Doctor Who season 1. I tell you, it's coming. I'm sand posting right now. I'm calling it right now. It's the Sand. Yeah. So if you want to chat with me or say hi or anything like that, feel free to. I love talking about Doctor Who.
And going on from Sand to Prindle.
Yeah, you can find me on YouTube either on Gormico or on just a channel called Iris Prindle. Gormico for the more film stuff, Iris Prindle for the random stuff. On Twitter, you can find me on iPrindle55, and on Instagram, iPringlesYT. Stupid name, working on changing it. Yeah, I think that's my socials.
Lovely. Peter?
I have a Twitter at DuffleCoatDoc. Beyond that, it's probably just going to be the same time Siren ones you're going to plug.
I don't need to plug. I mean, they're naturally plugged. Jack's my bitch these days.
For some reason, I really thought Peter was going to say you can reach it via carrier pigeon.
You can reach him via carrier pigeon. I've checked. He
Yeah,
doesn't respond.
Yeah, if you just get an envelope, put 20 quid in it, and tie it to the leg of a pigeon, you too can get my OnlyFans content.
Oh boy.
Lovely.
New Dufflecoat Doctor episode I'm going to start writing.
And of course, we can't forget the Queen, James York. Get your plug in. Not that kind of plug.
Oh, I thought I never thought you asked.
Not again.
Where's George? Anyway, my Instagram is jgy96. Or if you are looking for something of the Queer Doctor, if you can search Queer Doctor Doctor Who, the Queer Doctor Adventures on Instagram, and the Queer Doctor Who is for Twitter, and also Queer Doctor season 4, the final season, will be coming very soon.
Yeah, well, that's everyone. So I guess we just end it here. I don't know how to do endings. I don't really.
Bye, buddy.
Goodbye, everyone.
I think Jack's.
Goodbye,
I
so
think there's a
soon.
catchphrase to that. Something about keep running.
We ran
Keep
so
running.
Run away.
Don't sing it. Don't sing it. The
Run
copyright.
away.
The copyright. The copyright. Don't sing it.
Don't
say it, don't sing it. No, don't sing more copyrighted music. Oh, you silly little man.